Just gonna give it a moment and let everyone come in from the waiting room. If you could just make sure you're muted when you come in. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board. Can you make sure you're muted when you come in? So good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board, the BCB. Today is March 9th, 2022. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce, and I'm chair of the Boston Cannabis Board. And today I am joined by Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner Darlene Lombos, Commissioner John Smith, and Commissioner Alejandro St. Gian. And you previously met our project manager, Jasmine Nguyen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. So I will begin by reading each item into the record. I will then ask who is present on behalf of each applicant. The applicant will have 10 minutes each to present to the BCB, followed by questions from the board members. We will then take public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives, followed by the general public. If you wish to testify, please sign up via the link that I will put in the chat. If you have already signed up, you do not have to do it again. Please wait until the matter in which you would like to speak about is called. Do not use the chat to give testimony. It would not be considered. Please state your full name, address, affiliation, if any, when called upon. Testimony will be limited to 2 minutes, at which time you will be muted. Additional testimony may be submitted in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. The record will be kept open until Tuesday, March 15th at 5 p.m. The BCB does not give any more weight to spoken testimony than it does to written testimony. For today's hearing, we are actually going to go out of order, and we're going to start with old and new business. The following applicant was deferred from the BCB's December 15, 2021 voting meeting in order to give the applicant time to continue their work and conversations with stakeholders, specifically Bridge Over Troubled Water. There will be no further public testimony allowed on this matter. However, written testimony may be submitted to cannabisboard@boston.gov. Since the last meeting back in December, we have received several email correspondence from Rooted In and Bridge Over Troubled Water in regards to their ongoing discussions. We have also received several written statements from direct abutters, residential associations, and opposition letter from Representative Aaron Michaelitz. The applicant in reference is Rooted In LLC. The proposed license premise is 13 to 15 West Street, Chinatown. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. This is an equity applicant. The initial application was filed September 10th, 2020. The initial filing with Inspectional Services was August 20th, 2021, and the community meeting was held on August 19th, 2021. There is a buffer zone conflict with another cannabis establishment. The BCB will give Rooted In and Bridge Over Troubled Water 5 minutes each to give final remarks in regards to their own ongoing conversations over the last 3 months. Is anyone here from Rooted In and Bridge Over Troubled Water?
Hi.
For Rooted In, is Bridge Over Troubled Water on?
Elizabeth Jackson, Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Okay. So you each will have 5 minutes just to give the BCB a final overview on if you guys came to any agreement over the last few months. So if Brian, you want to go first?
Sure. We have a presentation. If we could pull that up before we start the timer.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Keith, co-founder, co-owner of Rooted In, and I'm being joined by members of our team, Joanne Keith and Rokia Chowdhury. This afternoon, we'll be sharing with you an update regarding our ongoing communications with Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Next slide. And next slide. Here you'll find a quick breakdown of our company's ownership. Next slide. Here you'll find a quick reminder of our experience we bring to the table. Next slide. This is a quick look back at our investor model, focusing on bringing people of color into this emerging industry. Next slide. On this slide, you will note the commitments we've made to Downtown Crossing. Next slide. And then next slide. During the December 15th voting hearing of the Boston Cannabis Board, the board voted to defer our vote to earliest February based on meeting with Bridge Over Troubled Waters and our companies working collaboratively on a way in which both organizations could learn to coexist. Our first meeting took place on January 26th. Bridge requested that we meet again in February and defer our February hearing date. We agreed to defer until March and met on February 17th. Bridge and Rooted held a third discussion on March 4th. From these discussions, our two organizations have begun to develop a framework of 5 points, which I hope will be the basis for a collaborative coexistence. Next slide. Bridge, Rooted In, and our security consultant, Dan Linsky of Kroll Security, discussed de-escalation techniques. Dan can go into detail during Q&A if you like, but the ultimate goal is to ensure that any interactions between Bridge clients and Rooted In staff or customers are respectful and safe and employ emotionally intelligent de-escalation techniques if necessary. Rooted In and Bridge have also agreed to sit down once SOPs for this location have been completed and go over the document in detail. Additionally, Rooted In has offered to allow Bridge staff members to go through the same training as Rooted In team members. And Bridge has offered to share their best practices as it pertains to de-escalation and other communication techniques. At the end of the day, our collective main objective is to ensure the community in which Bridge clients call home remains a calming, supportive environment, and that Rooted In is not a cause for Bridge clients to interact with the criminal justice system. And therefore, with any issues which may arise, Bridge is the first point of contact, allowing Bridge to work directly with their clients. This leads right into the next point, which is a dedicated liaison. Rooted In has agreed to assist with funding this role, who will work with Rooted In and Bridge to ensure lines of communication remain consistent, clear, and transparent. While it has not been fully fleshed out whether this person would work for Rooted In or Bridge, Rooted In has agreed to register this person as an agent of the dispensary, allowing on-demand access without the need to sign in as a visitor and be escorted into the dispensary. Next slide. Bridge has requested that we secure Part 1 crime data for their review for the areas surrounding cannabis businesses that have been open for more than 1 year. We're in the process of compiling this data and will supply to Bridge and the BCB once complete. Financial support is the trickiest area, as Kim Napoli can discuss during Q&A if you wish to hear specific details. Long and short, Bridge is rightfully concerned regarding the risk of their 501c3 status if they were to accept donations from a cannabis business. We have provided Bridge and will continue to work with them on creative methods that to date have successfully allowed cannabis companies to donate to 501c3s without running into issues. Next slide. Finally, and this is the most important of the 5 items to us, housing advocacy. Currently, persons who receive cannabis infractions can still risk losing their housing and even put the housing of their parent or guardian at risk. We discussed how law enforcement can hold the loss of housing over the heads of individuals in order to coerce information out of them. Bridge and Rooted In agree this is antiquated and has not caught up with where we are today as a society. Rooted In has agreed to work with Bridge and other supportive groups with advocacy as it pertains to changing housing laws at the city and state level, working towards a place where past and future cannabis infractions are not a cause for anyone's loss of housing. Next slide, please. This 5-minute presentation provides a synopsis of what has been done to develop these points, but it does not give enough credit to the work both teams at Bridge and Rooted In have performed. I'd like to thank Bridge Over Troubled Waters CEO Elizabeth Jackson and her staff for sitting with us over the 3 formal meetings and putting in the work to get to this point. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to present today and for encouraging this continued dialogue between our groups. We look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Chairwoman Joyce, do you want Bridge to go or do you want to do the Q&A with Rooted In first?
Why don't we see if there's any questions from the commissioners first?
Oh, well, do you have any questions? Starting with you.
I'm going to defer my questions until after my fellow commissioners have an opportunity to speak. I'm still taking this all in and thinking about it.
Okay. Commissioner Sengian?
Thank you. I am Thank you, Brian, for that information. I look forward to hearing from Elizabeth as well. Question, I know that Bridge Over Troubled Waters was the main opposition that we were most concerned about. Seeing that it was deferred, however, did any other stakeholders come forward to have further discussion with you, or did you approach any other stakeholders that had concerns?
No, I think we really talked it out with a lot of the people who were opposed to our application, a lot of the people who were in support of it. We didn't think that there was any other places that we could go. We are always happy and have an open door policy as it pertains to, constructive criticism. But a lot of the times what we were hearing was no, but there wasn't any type of, could you do this? Could you do that? Could you try doing this differently? And, we can't work with no, we can work with, what can you do differently? And we're happy to do that. And as you've seen from our proposal, it's changed from when we started this last April to today. It's changed, and it's changed as to the feedback that we've gotten from stakeholders. So we're happy to change, we're happy to make amendments and do things differently, but we just need that constructive criticism from people.
And you felt that the universities were definitely at a no place and not a place of any kind of compromise or shared solutions?
Well, as far as the universities, we spoke with Suffolk University. I'm terrible with names, so I apologize.
Okay.
We spoke with one of the main liaisons for Suffolk. He did not say, yes, John Nucci, thank you. We spoke with Mr. Nucci. He did not take a position. He said that he would get back to us with a position of the school. We had not heard back from him with a position. As far as Emerson, we spoke with Mary, again, terrible with names, especially when I'm on the spot.
Mary Higgins.
That's right, Mary Higgins. And she's also a representative of one of the local community groups. She did write a letter in opposition. But again, we had several conversations with them looking for direction as to where we could improve. We were never given any direction as to what we could do differently. And without any direction, it's hard for us to make a change. We're looking for input, and without input, we can't do anything differently. We spoke with the bid. The bid came back to us with a very large list of things that we could do. We accepted every single change that they asked us to do. So for us, we need the ask in order to do something differently. And when the bid asks us to change, we changed every single line item that they made a request of us, including our opening hours and things of that nature. Not selling pre-rolled joints, we took that off the list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions?
Thanks, Jasmine. Brian, you mentioned those 5 points. So a couple of things. So the financial support you said, well, that's a little tricky because, for them to accept financial support because of the 501c3. So any mitigation you can do around that? Have you researched that? What can you do?
Yeah, is Kim on the line? She
I'm here. Yes, I'm
oh,
here,
great.
Brian.
So yeah, she can speak to that right now.
So there's the fact that cannabis remains federally illegal, certainly calls into question any organization that is receiving federal funds or working with the federal government, particularly as to a 501c3 status. You certainly wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize that. There hasn't been any enforcement of this. However, that could change. We did talk with Bridge, did a little research into it. There are ways to accept donations. You can use third-party donation platforms, such as Benevity. They pool funds. Bridge Over Troubled Water is set up on that site, so it is possible to receive funds through that. There's also, separate from cash donations, there's also in-kind donations, and there's also volunteering. So there's a number of ways that Bridge Over Troubled Water could come together to support the efforts of Bridge, Rooted in Roxbury could come together to support the efforts of Bridge, whether it's through targeted donation drives or community volunteering or employee volunteering. there are ways around straight cash donations. However, there also are ways to accept cash donations. We just can't guarantee that it's something that wouldn't become an issue. So in order to accept those funds, you might keep them in a separate account, use them for hard goods. And that way, if the government or if anyone does come looking, you have them earmarked and they're able to be kind of extracted without necessarily calling into question the rest of the money coming into the organization. So, you know, ultimately it's up to the Bridge Over Troubled Waters board and their own council to decide if it's a model they want to go with. But as I said, we've got a couple of different ways in which we can support the efforts there that don't all hinge on cash.
Okay, thanks. And the second thing is, you talked about the housing advocacy. That's a policy change, right? So that's going to take longer, but that may have immediate impact on people because sometimes those changes tend to take a really long time to kick in. How are you thinking about that as it impacts Bridge?
I'll let Kim answer that question as well.
So you're absolutely right. It's the long game, and this is, you know, much like the evolution from cannabis as a prohibited substance to a legalized substance. You know, it takes time and it starts small and, you know, kind of grows over time. The support that Rooted In is offering is a constant opinion. It's an agreement that the policy of to date is wrong, and that Rooted In will do whatever necessary to further and bring about this change, whether that's getting a lobbyist or if there's a bill that comes in or if there's a national movement, mobilizing a coalition of support through trade organizations or public interest groups, or even meeting personally with lawmakers to move the effort forward. It's really something that it's an all hands on deck approach. You have to take it as it comes. And it's an undertaking that Rooted In is willing to make in collaboration with Bridge Over Troubled Waters to make sure that this does happen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joyce.
Commissioner Lobos?
I don't have any questions at this time. I just really appreciate the two parties coming together and talking this through. I'm interested in hearing what Elizabeth has to say from Bridge Over Troubled Waters. But again, I just, you know, it makes me feel really proud of people who are trying to make something work on opposite ends. It's not something that we see a lot going on in our country right now. So I really want to commend all of you for doing that. Thanks.
Commissioner Holmes?
I have no questions at this time. I'd like to wait to see what Ms. Jackson has to say.
Chairwoman Joyce?
I do, and thank you for letting me wait until the other commissioners ask questions and listening to my colleagues, especially what Commissioner Smith described as long games and lobbyists and, you know, risking 501c3 status and board members having to approve that. I have to ask Mr. Keith again, the same question I asked last time. Why this location? It just seems very complicated. It doesn't make sense to me. Why this location? Right next to a youth homeless shelter.
For us, it's not the proximity to the youth homeless shelter. While that is something that we take into account, we also take into account the location on Temple Place. So for us, you know, we think about that, and we also think about the opportunities in the downtown crossing area and how they are very limited. This would be the only location technically in Chinatown as well. There is, as we've said before, there is no perfect location for cannabis. You'll always have some level of pushback, and we understand the pushback, and that's why we're doing so much to change our proposal, to work with the community and do better and put a better product forward. And we think that, you know, from where we started last April to where we got to in December to where we are today, you know, we're putting forth a better product, a more conscientious product, we're putting forward something that has taken into account the concerns that people have. And, and we're working to address those concerns, and we'll continue to work to address those concerns. The downtown crossing area, this part of Chinatown, is an area that is, not inexpensive. It's not easy for equity applicants to find a location in this area. And when they find it, it's not easy for equity applicants to hold a location in this area. If we are so fortunate as to open in this area, it would be huge for not just us as owners, but for our investment model that supports and focuses on communities of color, people of color. We're actually currently interviewing for a GM for our Newbury Street location, and we got 150 applications. We narrowed it down to about 10. 6 are women, 4 are women of color. Of the 4 men, 2 are men of color. We're excited about that because now we get to further our mission on Newbury Street. We want to do the same thing on West Street.
Do you have any additional questions, Deirdre?
No, thanks.
Do any of the other commissioners have any further questions? Seeing none. Elizabeth from Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Joyce and board members. Thank you for letting me speak briefly today. And for the record, I first want to state that one of the stakeholders, Ostagai High School, has submitted an opposition to Ruda's application. My name is Elizabeth Jackson, and I am the CEO of Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Bridge's 47 West Street headquarters is a school, a substance abuse counseling center, a daytime drop-in center, and an emergency residence for homeless youth ages 14 to 24. Over 2,000 youth per year access services at this specific location, and hundreds each year call it home. I would like to be clear about what I see as the issue before the board today. The issue here is not Ruda's minority status. The issue is, should the board license a cannabis business to operate less than 200 feet away from a home, a school, and a multi-service agency that for over centuries have served high-risk youth? Your gut will undoubtedly would say that it shouldn't. Our homeless youth cannot go elsewhere. As a minority serving and a minority-led business, Bridge remains opposed to Ruda's application and respectfully ask you to deny it. Nevertheless, the board instructed Ruda and Bridge to see if the parties could agree to an alternative, one that would not require the outright denial of Ruda's application. Bridge has engaged in these discussions truly in good faith, and Ruda has been very respectful. The preliminary discussions today have produced a few potential helpful ideas, but there are several important parts of those ideas that must be ironed out and will take much more than just the 3 hours of conversations we have had to date. The parties have not agreed to any details and do not yet know whether their ideas are feasible or legal or much less agreed as. Agrees. As it stands today, Bridge youth are not no more protected than they were when the discussions began. To be clear, while Bridge has found the Ruda team to be very helpful in our meetings, no additional agreement will guarantee that the well-being of the very vulnerable youth who receive substance use counseling, attend school, and live at our 47th Street building will not be jeopardized by the decision granted Ruda's application. On the federal level, cannabis is still considered illegal, and many of our youth are supported by federal government housing programs, as well through loans for college and vocational schools. Bridge is supported by federal, state, and city grants to run our multi-service programming, which is nationally recognized, awarded, and replicated. Why jeopardize the safety and future of our youth? Youth new to Bridge routinely experience depression, anxiety, frequent job loss, low academic achievement, substance dependency, and have few, if any, life skills required for independent living. With odds already stacked so concretely against them, Bridge does not understand why those odds need to be worsened just so a company with enough capital to open and renovate a Newbury Street storefront can open in such close proximity to where Bridge has been serving for over 50 years. Location, location, location. The bottom line is the board will be licensing a cannabis store to operate next door to Bridge, an organization that strives to give new lives, new chances, new imagery to homeless youth struggling with drug addiction. And behind Ostagai High School, which I've said has submitted opposition, there is an obvious and unavoidable conflict between the two of us. Bridge provides a path for youth in a society that has continued to undermine their achievements. Our attempt to negotiate a not the worst alternative is still a loss for those youth, perhaps a life-changing loss, and will take time to iron out. Vulnerable youth, not the board, not Rooted, and not Bridge, will suffer the unfair burden of these consequences if the board approves Rooted's application to this location. Location, location. Rooted can go anywhere. As CEO of an organization that operates a home, a school, and a substance abuse counseling center in this very neighborhood, I cannot in good conscience rescind my opposition to Rooter's application while the safety and security of the youth that I'm in charge to protect is left up in the air. Let the kids be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Chairwoman Joyce?
I don't have any questions, just similar to what Commissioner Lombo said. Thank you for coming to the table and both sides' willingness to work together. I have no questions.
Commissioner Sankian?
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate your testimony, and I do appreciate you meeting with Brian and other members of Rooted In. I think that shows a lot of your character, and I've worked with you in the past, so I know you have great character and you come from a really good place. I just, I wonder, do you have the same opposites? Because where you're located, there's a significant amount of restaurants that serve alcohol, liquor stores, and other stores that have alcohol licenses. Is there, have you had this much opposition, if any, had come post your time there? If not, why? And then how do you see an establishment that has very strict security and I don't mean just Rooted, I mean any cannabis establishment, the industry is so heavily regulated and the security is such a huge part of it. How do you see that as a risk that it's greater than, the restaurant that's right, the Papagayo that served alcohol and could serve youth who were part of Bridge over Troubled Waters? I just wonder how you see that distinction.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's many distinctions. The first one is federally it's still not legal, right? And so our young people will be walking by, and if they have any confrontation with Rooted security, they get arrested, then there goes their housing, there goes their education, there goes everything, right? So that is what I'm trying to prevent. And my job is to look at, for our young people, the future. I think our young people they are homeless. Our street is their front yard. And I've expressed this to Rooted, where our young people, our neighbors have been, they don't call the police on our young people if anything happens. They work with our young people. We've been here for 50 years, right? And not that Rooted have said that they wouldn't work with them. It is that marijuana is still, or cannabis is still illegal in the federal government. So if they have housing or apply for an application, it goes poof, done, just because of the charge. We can't stop that, not at all. And we know that there will be walking around, they will be here. And so opposition of the difference it's uncalled for, because the alcohol has been legally for hundreds of years. Cannabis is still new. And we don't know what the federal government, like Kim has said, what would they charge with, or what would they go when it comes to our financial standing here as Bridge. I hope I answered your question. I don't know if I have
just so I can understand it, because I think this, comes up a lot with a lot of opposition to cannabis locations. And, I just want to make sure that, and I think you're right, because it is a new industry as well. And so there's a lot of learning on everyone's side. But so your concern is twofold. One, that their security will have negative interactions with your members,
Without
with
kids,
kids. I don't want to call them kids. Sometimes I don't like to call them kids because then they get offended.
Oh, they
So-
like to be called. They told me that I could call them kids.
Okay, you can call them kids and I can call them kids, young people. So, and I understand that, given the history of relationships between law enforcement and particularly kids of color. I do, and I'm not here to defend Rooted In. I do think, given their model, they would have a different type of structure. I can't speak for them, obviously, but I would think they would be more in line with what you're used to with your other neighbors. And then the other issues, cannabis being illegal and that being a federal challenge should your kids decide to use it, and you see it, the proximity that they would more likely use it and not walk the extra half a mile. If they're 21 plus, walk the extra less than half mile to Broad Street or High Street that has just recently been approved.
I agree. I see restaurants as very different part of society as well, and there aren't liquor stores right next to Bridge. And I have not had to post any of them that we've been here. We've been here since downtown Chinatown was considered the comeback zone, right? And Papa Gino's was our owners, and so we've been with the community. And yes, young people will walk that extra mile, but I'm saying 47 West Street is their neighborhood. This is their front yard. So our young people leave wherever place they are, anywhere, to come here and try to be safe, right? And the imagery of having to walk by and saying, oh, Bridge is telling me not to do it, but it's right here next to me, and let me go in. That is what it's adding to. What is it? Harm reduction. What is the least case scenario? And it doesn't help our cause that we're doing for our young people. It just doesn't add any support to what they need to go in the huddles they need to climb. And if our young men, 80% of our young people that we service are Black and Latino young people, right? And so they're 21, they walk into Rooted, they come out, get into an argument with another person here, the police gets called, and now they have, I keep calling it marijuana, but cannabis on them. There goes housing, there goes everything, poof, in just a second by them doing it. Yes, they might walk over there, they can walk over there, well, a mile away from us or half a mile away from us. We're literally talking feet from one door to another. There's no parking on the street. There are a lot of the kids, Suffolk can tell you, they hang out outside. I think about the young people's mental health and just their way of thinking of how they're young, they're 19, 20, 21, what they see, what's going on. Oh, there's a car parking, let's go in, let's do this. Those are the things that I want to avoid. And I want to make sure Rooted can go anywhere. And Rooted have talked to us about those, and as they mentioned, we can't change those legal laws, we can't change that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for your presentation. Two things. One is, you wrote in the letter to us that the opening of a cannabis store in such close proximity to the youth who have been so hurt by systemic racism does nothing but put them back further on the road to stability. Can you flesh it out for me a little bit? Like, what's the correlation? What does opening a cannabis store have to do with their stability? In other words, we've cited other cannabis stores, so that's the front yard. But in the backyard, we cited, like, I think at this point, probably 3 of them, which are also very close. So I'm just wondering, you mentioned location like 3 times.
Yeah.
So is it just a location that brings some instability? And what's the research that goes with that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your last part.
I guess I'm asking,
What's the research?
what supports that?
Oh, so I see it in two ways. It's the micro and and so let's talk about police was created, right? Back in the day to keep us all in one. So we want to go into what society, racism against my young people, right? So police was created to keep us all in line, right? And it was a part, and nobody really thought about what would be the best for everyone, security and safety. So when I think about how you're creating, cannabis is new, but we don't think about the effects that it's doing, just like we did with alcohol, right? We created alcohol, society created, oh, let's make it legal, it's fine. And 100 years later, there's so much data that says, young people or people of color are using it and it's hurting them, right? And so the same with cannabis, it's so new. So society is creating and saying, oh, we need to, and I don't want to call anything out, and I'm trying to be as politically correct as we can. We can't be getting arrested on the park corner of the street buying weed. So let's make this legal. Let's make this legal so we stop getting arrested. Now it gets created and it's legal, but guess who's still getting arrested? Keep saying mine because I service them here, but our young Black boys and girls are the ones that get arrested at a constant. So it was created to support the other, I'm trying to be so politically correct. It's not, our young men and women are being stopped every time. And if they have a weed or a joint on them, they're the first ones to get arrested, not anyone else. So that's a society created, and we're trying to make it, let's work together and make it work, but we're not looking at the aftermath. And the aftermath is still my young people getting affected. I don't know if I said that in a really cohesive or a way for everyone to understand without being so blunt on it, that it is another thing that society thinks it's okay. And for some it might be, but the after fact, it starts with interactions in the justice system. And that's our young people. And they're the ones that are getting affected. My husband's a law enforcement, and the ones that gets arrested on a daily basis is not what cannabis was called to be open for. It's the people we serve here. I hope I answered it in such a.
You answered it.
Okay.
And the last thing is, so there were 5 points, Brian and they brought up. So none of them you're really sort of, you would advocate for. None of them will really be helpful. It's just, yeah.
I don't think none of them, I think, like I mentioned, I think those are all some helpful ideas. I just don't know how they will work, right? So we have to go to the board and say, are we willing to take a almost $5 million hit if the federal government says, whatever, if you get $1,000, these are block dollars, right? These are federal dollars that come to the state as block dollars. The state then gives them out. The federal government can come out anytime and say, yeah, you can't give any block dollars to anybody that is doing this and that. That's $5 million proof out the door. That we are licensed DMH, Department of Mental Health from the state here that works on substance abuse. What is it that they will say, well, no, you decided to take money, or if laws changes, we can't do that. It's a lot of ifs. And that's what we're trying to figure out. Why take those chances when there's be great other locations, and take those chances of if I can't control. So there were some great ideas like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. And then when you start digging into it, it becomes, it costs money. The liaison idea was a great idea, but we have to fundraise $10 million a year. So we can't, pay for it, but Rudy has agreed they will pay for it. I don't know if that's, is it legal? Is it not? They're going to give us money? That takes time. And do I want to sacrifice what we have done good for our young people? That's a really major board decision. And there's still employment law issues that I don't know. I don't control that. Again, society controls that. It come out of anywhere. Biden has already come out saying his HUD dollars, which are housing dollars, if they're being used for anyone that gets, I can ask Eric to say the legal part of it, but anyone that gets caught or arrested in their housing projects, they will lose it. That means that even if our young people are staying with us, but they get arrested and their name is in a lease in a Boston housing, poof, their mom and their siblings will.
I'm just going to jump in one more time to say, we're charged here with whether or not this is a good location for cannabis establishment. These potential private agreements between the applicant and Bridge Over Troubled Waters are things that we shouldn't be discussing. We shouldn't be taking into consideration. Those are private agreements. There's money attached to them. And we would never want it to appear as if our vote had something to do with something with money attached to it. So I would prefer that the applicant and whoever they're working with refrain from including those in any further discussion about this. We really are just looking at whether or not this is a proper location for various reasons that we are charged with from City Council.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
No, I just wanted to put that on the record because there's 119 people here watching. It's recorded. This is a public meeting.
119.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. My apologies.
Commissioner Lumbos, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to underscore again, the level of integrity is very high for these conversations between the two of you. I just, again, want to just say how much I appreciate that. And this is going to be a very difficult decision. I don't want anyone to think that what we're doing here is really easy. Oh my goodness. So thank you for all of your diligence and getting together. And this is going to be really hard.
Commissioner Holmes?
I have no questions, and I echo Commissioner Lombos as I thank you both for coming back and sitting at the table and trying to iron out this really difficult decision. You both are, like I said, exceptionally great people and have really worked diligently at this. And we're just going to have to iron this out. But thank you for your persistence and your patience in dealing with us.
Thank you.
Chairwoman Joyce?
I don't have any other comments. Thank you, or questions.
All right, so that is the end of the discussion for this matter. The board will take this matter under advisement next Wednesday at their voting meeting. Thank you. All right. The next item we have, the following item was deferred from the BCB's February 16th, 2022 voting meeting in order to further review correspondence in regards to the change of operating hours. The applicant is Berkshire Roots, Inc. The proposed license premises 251, 253 Meridian Street, East Boston. The license type is a co-located medical recreational cannabis dispensary. This is a non-equity applicant. And the amendment of hours are, the current hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. They want to change it to Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Chairwoman Joyce.
I don't have any questions. I defer to Commissioner Lombos. If you have any questions.
I don't have any questions, and thank you for reviewing all that correspondence. And I don't think we're voting today, but thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you guys want to vote on this matter today, or you want to wait till next week? Because we can just knock this out if we're done, if you guys are okay with the correspondence that was submitted.
We can vote today on this?
Yeah, on this matter we can, because we deferred it to this meeting, so we can vote on it today if we want, or if you want. If you want to vote on it next week, we can too, but it's up to you.
I think we can administratively approve this today as a board, and we'll just put it on the voting agenda for next week and ratify that vote just to allow them, if should this pass, allow them to start operating. Is that what it was, Jasmine?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the change in hours.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? And none opposed. So the amendment of hours has passed, and we will put this on our voting agenda next week as well.
As an FYI. Okay.
Yes, as an FYI. All
Thank you very
right,
much.
you're welcome. All right, we'll now move to applicants for new licenses, following the 1-to-1 equity to non-equity ratio. We had no non-equity applicants that were ready for this month's hearing, so all of our applicants being heard today are all equity. The first applicant we have is Hyde Park Dispensary LLC. Hyde Park Dispensary, proposed license premise is 1589 Blue Hill Avenue, Mattapan. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours are 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. This is the equity applicant. The initial application was filed June 14th, 2021. The inspectional service filing was June 2nd, 2021, and the community meeting was held on October 20th, 2021. Before we begin with the presentation, I will ask Aaliyah from the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion as the Cannabis Business Manager to testify in regards to the equity certification.
Thank you, Jasmine. Can you hear me okay? I had to switch computers. Okay. Great. So good afternoon, everyone. Our office was able to certify Hyde Park Dispensary LLC as an equity applicant through the documentation submitted by the applicant. Eric James is the owner and 100% beneficial interest holder of Hyde Park Dispensary LLC, exceeding the 51% ownership and interest threshold set forth in the ordinance. Mr. James meets the following criteria. He is the child of someone with a past arrest or conviction for the possession, sale, manufacturing, or cultivation of marijuana from between 1971 to 2016 and has resided in Boston for the past 5 years. Mr. James provided his father's query report, which states that in 1988, his father was charged with possession and distribution of marijuana. Additionally, Mr. James provided his driver's license, bills, and additional financial documentation certifying his Boston residency for at least the past 5 years, including both addresses at Hyde Park Ave and Worcester Street. Secondly, Mr. James has self-identified as Black African American, which satisfies the criteria of a person who is Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, or Indigenous descent. Finally, Mr. James provided financial documentation which reported an income of below 100% AMI according to the City of Boston's Metro List website and the BPDA's affordable housing income limits. Are there any questions about this certification?
No questions. Thank you, Leah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
We will be. My name is Raheem Good. I'm the CEO of Hyde Park Dispensary, and this is Eric James, who is the current owner and founder of Hyde Park Dispensary.
Okay, so you have 10 minutes to give your presentation. You may begin your presentation. You can share your screen and begin your presentation.
You guys, do they have the presentation on file? May they pull that up? Can you pull the presentation up?
Oh, yeah, I can do it. You were supposed to let me know before, Eric.
I'm sorry about that.
One moment while I pull it up.
Okay.
Jasmine, thank you for keeping everything going. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes.
You can begin. Just let me know when you want me to move forward.
All right. We'll head over to our business concept. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name is Raheem Good. I'm the CEO of Hyde Park Dispensary. I'm here joined with the founder, Eric James. I'll try to make it quick for you guys. Our business concept, we'll be running Hyde Park Dispensary very similar to our current business that's in the Mattapan district, which is Boston Ink Body Art Specialist. These businesses are very similar as they both are forbidden businesses and heavily regulated by the state. We already have a strong following with the local residents and a lot of support from our local business owners in the Mattapan district since 2017. We have already implemented a employment diversity plan where we employ 5 minority women and 6 minority men, all residents of the Boston area, as well as 21 minority people were licensed through our agency, as well as 3 have went on to open their own businesses. Our overall mission here is to provide more employment opportunities as well as conduct a professional operation that's similar to our current business. Next slide, please. The team. Eric James, the founder of Boston Inc. Body Art Specialist and the owner of Hyde Park Dispensary. He was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. He has attended such programs as MEDCO, New England Art Institute, Artists for Humanity, as well as the LIST Boston Small Business Development Program. I, Raheem Good, will be acting as the CEO of the Hyde Park Dispensary. I was born and raised in Roxbury, Massachusetts. I graduated from Hyde Park High School. I also have 10 years working with juvenile services for such agencies as CYP, DYS, and CFCS. A lot of acronyms there, as well as the Home for Little Wanderers. Jasmine Fowler, she will be our operations manager. She has experience in retail administration, the metric system, web design, as well as app management. Eric, Jasmine, and I will be working together as we have for the past 5 years, structuring new businesses and career opportunities for our community. Can we go to the next slide, please? Our diversity and inclusion. Hyde Park Dispensary is committed to promoting equity amongst the women, the minorities, the veterans, persons with disabilities, and the immigrant population. We will do this by reaching out to the local career centers such as the Mass Hire Network, the Boston College Career Center, and JVS Boston to draw a minimum of 75% of our team from these demographics. Internship programs are going to be implemented to help other entrepreneurs get into the cannabis industry. Our goal is to explain to the young people in our community how to make an honest living in the cannabis industry. Not to mention that we're going to start off with a minimum wage that's $2 above the state minimum. Next slide, please. Let's get into our employment. At low peak operations, there'll be four employees. At high peak operations, there'll be 10 employees. Employee wages will start at $16.25, which is currently $2 above the state minimum. Full-time employees will have access to paid vacation time, sick time, health care, and additional sick days. All employees will receive sick leave, holiday, bereavement, parental leave, jury duty, and voting time. 75% of our team will be drawn from persons with disabilities, the immigrant populations, and people of gender identities and sexual orientations, all of them. We also will be giving previous CCC candidates with previous cannabis convictions job opportunities. Next slide, please. I will be going into our location. Our location is 1589 Blue Hill Avenue, Mattapan, Massachusetts, 02126. There will be direct parking in front of our facility. There's street parking on Blue Hill Avenue, as well as Mattapan Square parking lot is located behind the post office. The MBTA Mattapan Square station is located across the street from us. And we intend that at least 70% of our customers will be local residents within walking distance. We also estimate that it will take 2 to 5 minutes to process each client. Next slide, please. I'm moving on to our security. Sarah Natural's licensed cannabis vendors. They will be providing us with our cannabis inventory as well as delivering it to our facility. Loomis Currency Transportation Company will be transferring the funds from our facility to Century Bank, which is a federally licensed banking for cannabis industries. All of our employees will have to go through a CCC background check before becoming employed with us. Atlas Security will be the personnel for our security front door, and they will be on site at all times. Employees will be conducting business behind our ballistic resistant material at all times, as well as cannabis will be stored in its own vault. A major plus to our facility is that 15 4K motion sensor cameras will be capturing every angle of our facility at all times, and will be stored to a 30-day memory bank as well as a backup storage cloud. A strict ID policy will be enforced where we'll be using a card ID fraud reader at the front desk, and clients will be asked to show their ID again at the register. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Community feedback and our public support. On October 20th, 2021, we had a successful community meeting where we received 2 non-oppositions and no oppositions on record. We received 23 letters of support from the local business owners of the Mattapan district. We received letters of support from local institutions such as the Immigrant Family Services, and we reached a verbal agreement with the Mattapan Health Community Health Center. Unfortunately, they cannot sign off on our agreement because of their federal funding that they cannot associate with cannabis businesses right now due to the conflict of federal legality. But we have spoke to Gabriel Alves, and we have come to a mutual agreement on how we're going to operate. Next slide, please. I'm very passionate about this one here because it affects me like deeply. In conclusion, in 2011, 61,000 people were convicted of cannabis possession. And 80% of these people were people that look like me and look like some of you. What happens if we change this 80% of people that were convicted into 80% of people who found new employment, who found new opportunity, who found new luster in their community? With your help, we can change that 80% from an 80% in the red to an 80% in green. Thank you.
Thank you. We will begin with questions from the commissioners, starting with Chairwoman Joyce. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
Just to clarify, Mr. James, I'm sorry, I just lost your name.
Raheem Good.
Oh, thank you. Who were the two people that submitted non-opposition?
I believe it was a person named Timothy Brown, and I'm not sure what the other person, but it was a local resident.
Okay, so they were like neighbors or community?
Community members.
Okay. We do have a letter of opposition from former city councilor Arroyo. Former city councilor, I'm sorry. We do have a letter of opposition from district city councilor Arroyo from December. I know you're continuing to work with him, but I just want to put that on the record because your presentation said you have no opposition. I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Sengian, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Kind of along the lines with Chairwoman Joyce, there was Arroyo's office, there was also the Mattapan Main Street, as well as the Fatima's organization, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, but the Greater Mattapan.
Main Street.
Yes. Thank you. So I was wondering if you had any chance to speak with them. What are your plans to continue conversations, given their opposition from three pretty prominent organizations / people in the area?
We met with Main Streets twice. It's run by Nicole. She came to our meeting in October. To what I know, she hasn't said anything to us about any concerns. From what they were explaining to us in a private meeting in January 9th, I believe, is that we are the perfect type of candidate to be in Mattapan to represent for the dispensary within the neighborhood, because they're well aware that a dispensary is coming to the neighborhood, and they would like someone like us who are minority business owners within the community who's already been practicing good businesses to stay within the neighborhood. So if there was a different agreement with Main Streets, we was not aware of.
As well as, if I may add, as when we went forward to gather opposition letters of support, we was told that was not an area where they provide letters of support. They just don't provide letters of opposition. We're not going to tell you that we support you on paper. We're just not going to stand in your way. So we was never aware of an actual official opposition on record from the Main Street.
Okay.
Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions?
Thanks, Jasmine. Gentlemen, on the employment plan, you talked about, this changing around this 80%. So are you focusing on people who have quarries, main focus for you all? You talk about the 61,000 people who were arrested for marijuana and that kind of thing. Is that the statistics from Mattapan, Boston? And are you focusing on changing that around by employing more people who have quarries, that kind of thing?
So the 61,000 was generated from a review of basically the Northeast in 2011, basically heavily urbanized populations. We are definitely in one. And as far as figuring out exactly where these people, we're just trying to change the perception in our community, starting with our community. We have to start somewhere. So what we're doing is we're changing the perception of cannabis possession, cannabis use, cannabis sales in our community that will then inform the youth, inform people of our community, the proper channels to develop these habits and develop these careers in order to branch them out from our community and expand the knowledge beyond ours.
Right, and so I'm asking, I appreciate that. I didn't see sort of a clarity around looking at people who have quarries and how you're working to.
And this is that the triple C, that's our CCC cannabis equity.
So it's more, all right, so with the tattoo industry, when we had to go in front of the neighborhood community meetings, they gave us the permission to open up a tattoo parlor. Once they opened up the tattoo parlor to us, we then opened it up to other people who was like us, who wanted to have their tattoo license. They wanted to expand in their career. And then because I was granted the opportunity to open up a shop, I then licensed other people. Now what we're doing is we're doing the same thing with this business. There's no reason why people, especially people in our community, are selling illegal cannabis. Especially our people who's consuming cannabis have to go through illegal methods to attain cannabis. We should be able to go into a facility and be able to purchase cannabis legally. And if you are interested in the cannabis industry and do want to make money in this cannabis industry, there's no reason why people have to do it illegally when it's now possible to do it legal. Now, for people like us, where are we going to go to learn the proper channels to make honest living in the cannabis industry if we don't give people the opportunity to open up businesses, to give other people the opportunity to open up their businesses? So we have to start from the beginning of where we are, and that's Mattapan. You have to change our community and how we go about things.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Commissioner Lombos, do you have any questions?
I do. Thanks for the application. I have a couple questions. One is, we get these summaries of your presentation. So I just wanted to get a sense, a little bit more flavor of, it says the applicant will launch a comprehensive recruitment process. Can you give me a sense of what that comprehensive recruitment process will look like?
This is a cannabis industry. I cannot hire just anybody. I have to find elite members who can come into this cannabis industry and do it properly. I can't just hire just anybody to come into this industry. Yes, I want to hire people who are minorities, but I want to really hire elite members, people who have college degrees, people who want to make an honest living and want to be able to take their career to the next level. And you have to do that with the correct type of people. I can't just hire just anybody who sends an application. You have to meet certain criteria. You have to pass certain backgrounds in order to be accepted even as an employee. And we have to treat it as what it is. There's going to be a lot of money involved. There's going to be candidates involved. And I can't have certain people that I cannot trust in this type of industry. So I have to play it very safe. And that's my plan, to play it very safe.
Okay, so your comprehensive recruitment plan is to play it safe. So can you give me a little bit more details of what that means?
So with that said, I lived in Massachusetts for 34 years, my whole entire life. I know people personally who have degrees who have not met their criteria after finishing college. I know people personally who would be perfect members for this type of industry. It is almost like I'm like recruiting certain members, almost as if building a basketball team. I want to grab the perfect members in the team to make the perfect team to make a championship team. So I want to be able to be selective about people that I have in this business.
If I may add to that, to shorten it up, basically where we're at is it's a very tough industry. It's a new industry. There's not many people that have on their resume, hey, I've been working in a dispensary for 10 years. So when it comes to qualifications to bring somebody on as an employee, you have to have a very strict regimen as far as what you're looking for. And of course, we want to be very open to our members of our community. We want to be open to people with certain cannabis convictions and certain charges on their record. But we also have to be realistic within the industry that we work in and understand that this is an area, almost something very similar to a banking scenario, where there's a lot of potential for theft. There's a lot of potential for abuse. There's a lot of potential for people who want to come into the system to misuse it. So we have to be very patient with screening with our employees.
Great, thank you. And then just one other question just about the other businesses. It sounded like there were other businesses that you had. It's great that you do, and I'm would just love to hear, because it helps us establish a track record of what you've already done. So can you just share a little bit more about what those businesses are, and how many people of color, and how you do that recruitment process and retention? Can you give me a little bit of flavor of the track record of your other businesses with your employees?
So currently we own Boston Ink Body Art Specialist, which is located at 438 River Street, Mattapan, Massachusetts. It's approximately, I believe, 600 feet diagonal from our proposed dispensary in Mattapan Square. We currently, if I'm not mistaken, at the very moment have roughly about 13 employees, 5 women. We have 6 men, and then we have, if I'm not mistaken, 3 apprentices that are of alternate sexual identities or transitioning. And how we go about that is it's a 90-day program where you come on, you start showing us what you got and what you're here for, and we start teaching you certain methods and techniques before moving forward with your apprenticeship. At some point in time, a lot of people don't move forward with their apprenticeships, but that doesn't mean we leave them hanging. We leave the door open for internships where people come on and we train with them. After the 90 days, if we see that there's a mutual progress there, then we bring you on as an actual artist and we get you licensed, which we have done for in the past 5 years for 21 other artists on top of our 13 artists right now.
Okay, and can you tell me what your starting wage in your other businesses are?
Our current business isn't set up as an hourly wage or a payment. These are private contractors. So we technically, they're in charge of their own wages at this moment.
Basically by appointment base. So they have to schedule their own appointments. So it's like subcontracting.
It's very much to a hairstylist. It's very much like a barber.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you. No further questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Holmes, do you have any questions?
I just have a couple. Can you give me a little bit more detail on your security personnel and your systems? Have you reached out and contracted with any companies, or according to your presentation, just says you'll be contracting? The only one that you really have narrowed out is Sierra Naturals for your product. But what about your money transfer? How are you going to do your deliveries? Where are your pickups?
We also have that in the same slide. It's Loomis Currency Transportation. That's who's going to be doing our fund pickups. And they're also going to be dropping our funds off at Century Bank, which is one of the only banks within our immediate access that banks with cannabis businesses.
Right.
As well as it says there that Atlas Security Company, that's a Massachusetts-based security company, will be on site at all times, as well as our employees will be behind ballistic resistant material at all times during operation, as well as 15 4K motion detection security cameras will be captured inside and outside with night vision capability that are stored on a 30-day backup camera, as well as a cloud memory bank. A cloud memory bank is a bank that's digital storage and that we do not have immediate access to.
Where are you going to do you have a specific location for your drop-offs and your pickups? Are you using the front door? Is there a side? Is there an alley entrance? How is all that going to work?
Have 3 access points on site. We would be using our service door. We have a specific door designated for drop-offs and releases, as well as a separate egress for emergency situations that's separate from our cannabis inventory.
And where is that located? In proximity to the building? Is on the side, is in the back?
Ours would be on the side that's right next to our disposal where our 4K TV is actually, what we was told we have to have a 4K camera right there by our disposal anyway, our trash refuge. So
Okay.
our door would be right there. That's a service door. It's a keyed entry. It's not something that the public has access to.
Okay, I don't see, I'm looking through all your presentations and stuff, and so if you can point to me where that information is you just told me, because I could have overlooked it.
And that talks about where, so on security.
Security, slide 8.
Is it on the presentation?
Slide 8. The only thing
Okay.
that's not on the presentation is where the cannabis will be dropped off, like the specific door, but all that other information is right there on slide 8.
Okay, just as contracting with a security transfer company, doesn't have a name. The security personnel doesn't have a name. So that's why I was asking you.
Wow, yeah, that's unique because
Oh, so we're having this, we added the
oh, I see what she's
the
saying. Yes.
presentation.
Okay, so yes.
Oh, no, it doesn't say, does it?
No,
Yeah.
she's right. So basically, my apologies for
It
that.
says
You are
it on
100%
notes.
are.
Okay, this is what happened. We had time, so we wrote it on our side notes, but in the presentation, it just gives you the basics.
You're right, thank you.
I'm going for my mental knowledge and my side.
Yeah.
So you have already contracted with a money transport.
Yes.
And who is it again?
Loomis.
Loomis. Okay, cool. And what about your security officers?
Atlas.
Atlas. Okay, it got you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Okay,
Nope,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. You might want to amend that presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm over here.
Okay, but no, Loomis and Atlas. Okay, that's all I had. That was the only questions I had. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Commissioner Smith, you had another question?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that. I'm just going on what you just shared with Commissioner Lambert. So one of the things you said was, and I picked up on this word. So when we were talking earlier, you talked about casting a wide net, wanting, you know, in terms of the impact of the war on drugs, trying to attract people. But then when you were talking with her and her questions, you said, you have to attract the elite. Folks with degrees and stuff like that. What's the criteria, what counts as elite versus folks who don't have degrees, who may have been charged for things? Is there a really specific distinction there between, you're casting a wide net, you're talking about diversity and inclusion, but then you're saying that I'm hiring the elite? So I just want to be a little bit clearer on that.
Everyone's elite in their own.
Okay.
That's something we understand. When we say elite, that it's almost, I almost want to ask, like, what's your definition of elite? What's his definition of elite? What's my definition of elite? Everyone's elite within their own. You can go to the bottoms and find elite people. You can go to the tops and find elite people. What makes somebody elite is their want, their drive, and their determination to want to move forward in a decision that they made. So if a person comes forward and has the drive and determination to progress in the cannabis industry, that qualifies that person as elite.
So that's the definition you're using, the person who has
For me, that would be
degree.
When I say is more just as, for example, just hypothetically, there is a person out there who is selling illegal cannabis, but however, they're very good with making customer service, picking out good product, also know what product to sell to the person, also knowing the different metric systems and weighing the cannabis behind the scenes, but however, never had the opportunity to do it legally. So now they're elite in the cannabis industry. However, they never had the opportunity to be in a legal cannabis industry. So now we're giving people who was doing it illegally to now do it legally if they actually do the proper channels, if that makes sense to you.
It does. Just wanted to clear that distinction. Yeah. Because just because in the conversation you said have to hire a lead, and then we started down this road of degrees and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if that's.
Yeah, yeah.
What's around it. Okay.
Hypothetically, if someone had the background and they was like a very violent person, and they had a violent past, I don't want them necessarily to be in my industry, my company, and be able to hurt me, my business, or other employees within the business. And I told someone that I'm gonna hire them because even if they had felony records. Like, even if you did have a felony record, you still have to pass still a standard that you have to meet. I still can't just hire you just because you had a certain type of background.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Do any of the commissioners have any further questions for the applicant? Commissioner Sankian?
I just have one quick question. It struck me that your Hyde Park dispensary, but you're located in Mattapan. Was there a different site that you were originally? You're laughing.
Okay.
Do you get asked that a lot?
I all kind of know what happened here. So we was in Hyde Park originally.
Okay.
Deal with a property owner, everything was moving well, and then out of nowhere, life changed for him. He said, "I'm going to pull out." So then what happened is, coincidentally, we looked across the street and we're like, "Wow!" Right in front of our face has been a business ready for available within our own community that we already run a business in, and it's a very nice location. Why not try to go for it? We went for it, and now we're here. However, we've already been moving forward with the process under Hyde Park dispensary.
Under Hyde Park, okay.
Brought the LLC.
Yeah.
We
Under
followed
Hyde
through with-
Park.
Yes. So like,
Okay.
as we knew that we wanted to open up dispensary, the problem is that now the landlords are stuck with, do we want to let this business inside our facility? Because a lot of people who are landlords have mortgages, and the mortgages is funded by federal companies, and everyone's is concerned that they might lose their federal contracts by letting our business inside their facility. So we was having problems finding a landlord that will allow us to practice our business practice.
Like for instance, their property insurance would come in conflict because we're a business that isn't federally legal. So now their property is not insured, but we're running a business that on paperwork technically should be a high volume business. So there's a lot of conflict with that with these landlords. So it's hard to find one that's willing to work with you.
We then came to Mattapan. The landlord was amazing. He was okay with us opening our business in the neighborhood. We know all the local businesses in the neighborhood. Our business is also forbidden, so it's also very heavy regulated. So we felt that this would be a perfect business for us, and everything's been working out for us.
Okay. So but the current landlord it's okay. You're not having any issues with them.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from the commissioners? No? All right, we will move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or representatives of elected officials.
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dante Peoples here from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. There was a community outreach meeting held by ONS on October 20th, 2021, which was attended by residents, community stakeholders, representatives of local elected offices. Concerns about insufficient space at the proposed location not meeting similar proposals that were described in the past. As needed to conduct this type of business, was concerned, along with lack of support from residents and abutters, as the applicant has not met with any of the neighborhood associations that we refer to them. Also, insufficient security in regard to a realistic plan to address concerns around theft. Other concerns include inadequate parking, traffic congestion in Mattapan Square, as traffic seems to brutally increase around 4 to 6 p.m. An additional meeting was held in November by Mattapan Square Main Street, where the Main Street stressed the applicant to meet with abutting businesses and neighbors, chiefly the Mattapan Community Health Center, to discuss the possible impact of having a dispensary, with the impacts that it would have on patients dealing with chronic or general drug use challenges. This meeting and conversation did not seem to happen. Therefore, Mattapan Square Main Street had requested that the applicant do more extensive outreach to the community stakeholders, and were not able to give full support at this time. The board should have received letters from letters in opposition from the Greater Mattapan Council, as well as the Mattapan Community Health Center, as well as comments from the Mattapan Square Main Streets explaining why they cannot give full support at this time. The Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services would like to highlight that the applicant did receive support from businesses with support petitions, around 22, I believe it was, from businesses abutting the proposal in a general area. But in result, at this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the board for your judgment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dante. Are there any other elected officials or representatives that would like to speak? Seeing none, I will move to those who signed up via the chat. I see a Clifton.
Yes, thank you for adding me on. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Clifton Braithwaite. I live at 12 Friendship Road. I would like to say I'm a lifelong resident of Boston, Massachusetts, but I actually came way of Newton, and I've been an advocate in this community since the age of 8. I support these gentlemen because I believe in their work ethics, and what they're going to do in our community is be the face of young people making decisions in our community. I believe these men, not that I believe, I know these men deserve an opportunity to bring wealth to their families and to our community, and to have a young, brash, young face to be a part of it. As far as I'm concerned, as all the work that I've done in this community, first of all, I'd like to thank all the commissioners that are on and everybody that does the work that they do. But I would like to say, with me being an advocate in this community for so long and deeply rooted in this community, I would like for y'all to give them an opportunity to show you that men of color can get the job done. That's all I wanted to speak. I believe in these men. I'm 100% behind them. And whatever other letters you need to get from these guys, I'm more than willing to get it for them. But I believe in them. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and have a blessed day.
Thank you. Next, I see Sharon Calendar.
Yes, thank you. My name is Sharon Calendar. I'm a nurse at Mattapan Community Health Center and the Director of Family and Community Health Services. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. And my comments are specifically because of the location of the dispensary. I just recently spoke with our CEO and President, Mr. Wally Valdez, who absolutely said that he had spoken with these young gentlemen and that he was unable to sign a document because we are a resounding no to the dispensary being located so close to the health center. And that is because we work with a group of individuals dealing with chronic care, general health care, and also drug use challenges. And we feel that having a dispensary within steps, our location is 1575 Blue Hill Avenue. And I see that the dispensary is right next door to us. And we see that having that right there is really counterproductive to the work and care the health center provides on a daily basis. Other reasons that have already been stated by Dante Peoples include inadequate parking. We talk about parking, that is general parking on Blue Hill Avenue that is used by all individuals, all businesses here. Also, we talk about the traffic congestion. Traffic in Mattapan, starting around even as early as 3. It is really hard to get through the square. There is no parking. People trying to back out into oncoming traffic is very dangerous. I myself has already seen one accident there where I actually witnessed a woman being hit by a car. Security and safety for our patients seeking care and staff working at the health center is of major concern. So we wanted to express that point. We are not necessarily opposed to the operation of cannabis shops, but we are opposed to one being within steps of our health center. And we did not give any verbal agreement. And if you did not get that, you did not get a verbal agreement from Mr. Wally Valdez. I think there's been a misunderstanding about that. And I just want to make that very clear, that the health center does not approve of having this dispensary near the health center where we are located at 1575 Blue Hill Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. You see Jamal H. has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jamal Hargrove. I am a Boston resident. I currently live in 60 Brookdale Street, Rosendale, Mass, zip code 02131. I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. And with that said, I do want to voice my opinion and say that I do vouch for these gentlemen being able to open up a cannabis business within the community. I think them being able to try to change the narrative is something that's definitely needed in this world, just because of that one outstanding statistic that they had said, where back in 2012, I might be paraphrasing, my apologies on that, but to be able to change that narrative for so many people that had possession of marijuana and still got wrongfully victimized because of that, not knowing that what they were trying to do just because of their environment, it was what they had to do to be able to survive and whatnot. But in all honesty, them changing that narrative, being a part of the community. I know Eric James was talking about his current Boston tattoo business, which is still within the community. I think giving them the opportunity to be able to change that narrative, push that narrative forward, as well as other things that we as African American people desperately need, is something that's needed right now. Just the opportunity. I know I've heard some things other people talking about their stances on this, and most of the things are valid, but still, I think given it, you got to start somewhere, and having an opportunity to be able to do that, it would change a lot in the community. I know they're young men. I know other people within the community most likely do look up to them, and it's another way to bring the community together. And there's a lot of health benefits that are around cannabis that a lot of people are unknown about, and having the proper businesses that actually advocate for those things could go a long way for people, not just for themselves professionally, but more importantly the community.
Thank you, Jamal. Is there anyone else that didn't get a chance to testify that would like to testify on this matter? Seeing no one else, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you. Next applicant we have is Opco Alston LLC, doing business as Dr. Green Thumb Alston. The proposed license premise is 144 Harvard Avenue, Alston. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operations are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. This is an equity applicant. The initial application was filed October 13, 2021. The inspectional services filing was October 8, 2021. The community meeting was held January 24th, 2022. There was a buffer zone conflict with another cannabis establishment. Before I proceed with the presentation, I will ask Aaliyah to testify regarding the equity certification.
Thank you, Jasmine. Our office was able to certify Opco Alston LLC as an equity applicant through the documentation submitted by the applicant. Leah Samora is the CEO and the 51% beneficial interest holder of Opco Alston LLC, meeting the 51% ownership interest threshold set forth in the ordinance. Ms. Samora meets the following criteria. She is a person who has resided in an area of disproportionate impact as defined by the Cannabis Control Commission for at least 5 of the past 10 years. She submitted documentation such as her car registration, utility bills, which establishes that she has resided on Wellington Hill Street in Mattapan since at least 2015. Utilizing the geocoder tool the CCC provides, Ms. Samora's address has been designated as an area of disproportionate impact. As previously stated, Ms. Samora submitted sufficient documentation that establishes she's been a Boston resident since at least 2015. This satisfies the criteria that she is a person who has resided in the city of Boston for at least 7 years, or for the past 7 years. Finally, Ms. Samora self-identifies as Black, which satisfies the criteria of a person who is of Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, or Indigenous descent. She has also been certified by the Cannabis Control Commission as an economic empowerment applicant. Are there any questions about this certification?
Thank you, Leah.
No questions, thank you.
Thanks.
Who is present on behalf of the applicant?
I will be.
Okay. Leah, sorry.
Sorry. I'm gonna have to share my screen.
Okay, yes, you can share your screen. You have 10 minutes.
Okay. All right. I have to move this control. Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Boston Cannabis Board. My name is Leah Samora, and I am the majority owner of OPCO Alston LLC, doing business as Dr. Green Thumb Alston. We are a certified equity applicant proposing an adult use cannabis establishment to be located at 144 Harvard Ave in Alston. I'm joined today by our attorney, Mike Ross, and some other members of our team. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. As you can see from this slide, I own 51% of this company. I'm a proud lifelong resident of Mattapan, and I have extensive experience in the cannabis space, including as a co-owner of a retail recreational dispensary in Cambridge. I am the founder of Cannabis by Default, an organization that provides pathways for ownership and employment to those individuals negatively impacted by the failed war on drugs. For this proposal, I am excited to have partnered with Louis Freeze, better known as the recording artist Be Real of Cypress Hill, who launched the well-respected Dr. Green Thumb brand in California in 2018. So we are extremely proud to have entered into a labor peace agreement with UFCW Local 1445. We are also excited to have partnered with TRP Company, owned by the founding Cookies retail team, which holds a minority 9% interest in the company. Separately, my husband and I were the first company to be accepted into the SARE Accelerator program, through which we launched our cannabis-infused product line. This will be just one of the minority women and local-owned companies to which we will dedicate 20% of our shelf space. This graphic shows the ultimate beneficial interest holders in my company. We put our values before our profits. 100% of our employees will be Boston residents, diverse, or have a non-violent criminal history. 80% of our employees will be Boston residents with a strong hiring preference for Alston Brighton residents. In no case will our employees be less than 75% minorities, and our senior leadership will not fall below 51% makeup, with the goal of being far higher. The chart to the right of this slide further breaks down our hiring goals. We anticipate hiring between 30 to 35 full-time employees with an expectation that each shift will have 12 people. We will be paying a starting average of $20 an hour, with the average being $24 an hour, and will provide comprehensive benefits, including healthcare, 401k, full public transit subsidies, and optional paid volunteer time. We will provide all employees access to online cannabis workforce development and mentorship programs. Management and ownership will have an open door policy. We will encourage communication and suggestions in the workplace, and will institute whistleblower protections and non-retaliation policies. We are committed to enhancing the Alston community and have listened to suggestions and feedback from residents, businesses, and stakeholders. One concern we heard repeatedly was the amount of graffiti on storefronts in this area and the negative impact it has on diversely owned or local businesses. We are committing up to $10,000 annually to a storefront improvement program. We will work with a diverse array of local businesses to coordinate and fund graffiti prevention on area storefronts. We will also provide more than 250 hours of community service through our team, with a focus on benefiting diversity and inclusion. Through this opt-in program, each employee will have 20 hours of paid community service time each year to put towards volunteering and participating in charitable initiatives, which promote diversity and inclusion efforts. As previously noted, we will also support diverse and local companies, brands, and products by dedicating 20% of shelf space to these businesses. Our goals are not just aspirational. As you can see on this slide, we will put in place programs and measurements to ensure that we are accomplishing these goals. We will monitor and adjust our efforts on a regular basis. All right, here we go. This slide shows the footprint of the store. As you can see, there are 6 on-site parking spaces located in the rear shared parking lot, which is accessed from Harvard Avenue via the alley shown at the top left. Delivery of product and cash pickup will also occur in the reserved space of this lot, which is indicated by the hash marks. As you can see, the entrance to the store is located on Harvard Avenue. You will also note public bike racks on the front sidewalk and additional bike racks in the rear. This is a multimodal location with on-street and off-street vehicle and bicycle parking and multiple forms of public transportation. In addition to the dedicated on-site employee parking, we have secured 10 exclusive marked spots for patrons in the lot across Harvard Avenue on Glenville Avenue. We are also located across the street from a municipal lot with an additional 60 spaces. There are 27 on-street parking spaces within a 3-minute walk of the store. This location is accessible to the MBTA Green Line and the 66 and 57 bus lines. Our 5,000 square foot store provides ample space for interior queuing and a dedicated entry vestibule, 3 separate points of ID verification, and best-in-class security measures to comply with the Boston Cannabis Board and the Cannabis Control Commission's regulations as outlined in our written submittal. This location is located in what is already one of the more densely populated communities in the city, with both a thriving business and residential community. This neighborhood is only going to become more vibrant with over 1,000 residential units per minute within a half-mile of this location in the last 2 years. As the board is aware, exceptions to the half-mile buffer zone have been made, especially in dense areas like this that already support multiples of different types of businesses. As you can see on the slide, there are 7 pizza shops, 15 bodegas, 9 bars and restaurants, and 8 coffee shops in this immediate area, just to name a few. This neighborhood can also support multiple cannabis establishments. 3 cannabis establishments can exist harmoniously while all succeeding financially. A whopping 84% of voters in this ward and precinct voted to legalize adult use cannabis. Given the immediate public demand, having multiple cannabis establishments will prevent concerns such as exterior queuing. We think that this is exactly the sort of location that rises to the level of a buffer zone exception, especially for a Boston equity applicant and lifelong resident. The community agrees with us. We have met with local civic and business organizations, elected officials, abutters, and local businesses who are excited about our presence on Harvard Avenue. I have personally walked the area, introducing myself, the team, and soliciting feedback from residents and businesses. We have made tangible plans to support the community moving forward. We are excited to submit to the board over 200 letters of support, including a letter of support from State Representative Kevin Honan and a letter of non-opposition from District Council Liz Breeden. Thank you for your time and consideration, and look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you. We will begin with questions from the board members. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do. Thank you. I have to focus in on the buffer zone statement and the fact that you're 0.1 miles from another approved establishment, in light of the fact that we do have to cite 52 places. That is a fact. I don't dismiss that, but tell me more about why we should cite 1.1 mile from another one. CBA has been concerned with this as we approve things that come up before them. You state that this is another option to patrons in this thriving neighborhood. What is the other? What are you offering that the other place isn't?
Madam Chair, good afternoon. This is Mike Ross, attorney for the applicant. I'll take that question if I could. Leah already cited the number of residents in this area and the fact that this has been a pro cannabis part of the city. In addition, to answer your question, how are we different from the other applicants? In the operation located, the Mayflower Medicinals operation, they're offering medical cannabis. That's clearly a unique factor. I don't know too much about the other application that's 0.1 from us, 116 Harvard Ave. But I can tell you that the products that we will be offering at this particular location will be very unique to Massachusetts. The name of our store is Dr. Green Thumbs, and Dr. Green Thumb, who was affiliated with Be Real, who had to leave, but he was on the call for an hour before. He put a little message in the chat, came up with this brand called Dr. Green Thumb. It's very unique. It was very popular in California, and we will be offering this exclusively at the store. And so these are very unique offerings at the different locations, just like a coffee shop might offer a different offering and be right next to another coffee shop. There are clear Dunkin' Donut customers and there are clear Starbucks customers, and they both walk into their respective coffee shop. And I think that analogy works here too. But I think the justification for the buffer zone was best said by Leah in terms of density and demand in this area. Indeed, the letter of support from the state representative and the testimony I think we are going to hear from the other state representative bears that out as well.
And I just want to clarify that Mayflower is co-located. They're medical and recreational. They're not open for recreational yet, but they are. We have approved them for recreational. So.
Thanks, Jasmine. So just to be clear, we have Representative Honan and Moran. You said one testified, one supports it. Which one? I don't even know where you are right now.
Correct. Yeah, I'm over here. Representative.
I'm here from Rep Moran's office. So and he is in support of this location. So.
Okay, so Rep Honan, what were you going to say?
Submitted a letter, Madam Chair. With the full knowledge of the other two operations.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sanguin, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Holmes, do you have any questions? No questions. Commissioner, sorry, I couldn't find your pictures. Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions?
Thanks, Jasmine. Leah, right? Sorry. You said 30 to 35 full-time employees will be required. You're thinking of how many in your first and second year to be paying this $20 an hour wage?
Say that again. How many? Say that again.
In your first and second year.
How many do we plan to pay? That's
starting. That's starting.
20 starting and averaging out at $24 an hour. So at the start, we plan to all of our employees to start off with at least $20 an hour. Okay. Each shift is about 12 employees.
Each shift's about 12 employees. Okay. You're the co-owner of Yamba. Do you have the same type of diversity? Are you applying some of the same ideas and stuff here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So are you referring to my Cambridge store, Yamba Boutique? Yes, absolutely. So my background, working in nonprofit for 20 years and working in Roxbury and some of the, and as we all know, which is one of the hardest to serve communities. This is my passion. This is what I want to, this is another way that I can help the communities that I've already been serving for 20 years and put more money, better money in their pocket and give them better opportunities. As you see, because I was a workforce development technology trainer, I already have a training program that will be up and running in 2023. And so
you have the site already, the Green or online cannabis. Okay.
Yes, I'm a partner with Green Flower Institute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lambos.
Yep, thank you. I just have one question. Thank you for the very comprehensive application. I am just curious, it mentions that you'll be doing cultural sensitivity and unconscious bias training. I'm just curious, do you have those trainers? Do you do them yourself? Just wondered what that might look like.
We are going to hire those trainers.
And do you have someone in mind already? Just wanted to get a sense.
Anna, you think you can help me out here? I think she's somewhere here.
Absolutely. Let me turn on my camera. We do have in-house people who do cultural training and sensitivity training. So she will be brought on board once we hire our first round of employees to start that program.
Got it. Thank you. So not a contractor, will be in-house.
No, we have an in-house person. And
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from the commissioners? No, so we will move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer judgment to the board on this matter. Some background information on the community process. The applicant did a lot of outreach with various community groups, including the Alston Civic Association, the Brighton Alston Improvement Association, as well as connecting with the Alston Village Main Streets. As you've heard earlier from Rep. Moran's office, both state reps in that area, State Rep. Kevin Honan, State Rep. Moran, have voted to support this proposal. During these presentations with the local civic associations, a number of residents mentioned that they liked the location, that it was located within a business district, and that it had access to public transit. We had a public meeting on June 24th. The meeting was stopped early after several disruptions. There was a number of participants focused on the conversation around ownership, with an entity from out of state owning a percentage of that ownership, as well as conversations around the business located in Cambridge. There was not as much focus on the operational side and what the impacts would be on the direct neighborhood. However, we did hear from several Alston business owners as well as Alston residents. Some residents that were in support, like the presentation, had mentioned that that storefront had been vacant for a number of years. They also liked that the applicant had committed to assisting Alston Village Main Streets on combating graffiti, which is very endemic in that area. And another resident mentioned that they were excited to see another Black-owned business move to the neighborhood. There were also some businesses that had concerns or were in opposition regarding the potential impact on parking, with the neighboring business worried that with parking in the rear used by this business, that would impact adjacent businesses, as well as the overflow parking that would be rented over on, I believe, Glenville Street, could potentially lead to residents who park there then trying to find on-street parking, competing with other residents. There was a conversation regarding, proximity to the existing Mayflower dispensary and a potential buffer zone contradiction there. So with that information presented, we'd like to turn it back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Are there any other elected officials or their representatives? Jen, I know you're here from Representative Mike Moran's office.
Yeah, I just want to say my name is Jen Migliore. I work for State Representative Michael Moran. He represents the 18th Suffolk District. He is in favor of this application, and he does believe that the Alston Village, Harvard Ave area can handle multiple dispensaries on this corridor due to, it's very dense and there's a lot of public transit in that area. It's a suitable and appropriate location, so we would like to pass along our support for this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other representatives, elected officials or their representatives? No, so now we move to public testimony. If you already signed up to testify, you do not have to raise your hand as well. If you can lower your hand, if you already signed up. The first person that signed up is Gabrielle Camacho.
Good afternoon, Chair Joyce and Commissioners. My name is Gabriel Camacho. I am the Political Director of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445. We represent approximately 12,000 essential workers throughout the Commonwealth. You probably know our members as the friendly faces of workers at Stop and Shop, Macy's, and more recently in cannabis dispensaries. UFCW represents thousands of cannabis workers throughout the nation from seed to sale. We know the industry and workforce very well. Our union strongly supports OPCO Alston LLC project for 114 Harvard Avenue, otherwise known as Dr. Green Thumb. In addition to being an equity applicant, Dr. Green Thumb is committed to hiring 80% Boston residents and a majority of people of color who have been adversely affected by over-policing and the war on drugs. OPCO, Green Thumb, and Local 1445 have entered into a partnership with a labor peace agreement. Simply put, LPA is an agreement between a union and an employer where the company agrees to remain neutral during an organizing drive and the union agrees not to engage in job actions. This way, the employees will decide to unionize or not without undue interference. Additionally, our union strongly believes that racial equity must have economic stability as its backbone. Indeed, our collective bargaining agreements not only contain better wages and benefits, but non-economic matters such as that are equally important, such as non-discrimination clauses, upward mobility that respects seniority, and shop floor union representation. Furthermore, the majority owner, Ms. Leah Samora, has a well-documented history of community activism and racial equity and entrepreneurship. Not only has Ms. Samora worked for the Urban League, but currently is the president of Cannabis by Default, Inc., a consulting firm that focuses on the employment and ownership of cannabis industry for those who have been harmed by the enforcement policies of cannabis prohibition. So we strongly urge the board to approve this license. And if I can be indulged for a little while longer, I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. It can handle a variety of cannabis shops and dispensaries. Indeed, there are 6 bars in that corridor. There are something like
Okay. I believe the applicant went over that. If you can keep your testimony to 2 minutes.
Okay, let me just say, and who can say no to Cypress Hill? Thank you.
Thank you. Next I see is Barry Hines.
Hi, my name is Barry Hines, and I own and operate Barry Hines Inc., the abutting property to the dispensary. We support for over 20 years. We support this license application.
Thank you. Next person that signed up is Amias McKnight.
How you doing? My name is Amias McKnight. It's a pleasure. I'm the executive director of Dorchester Art Project, as well as a board member of an arts organization called Brain Arts Organization. I'm definitely for the approval of this license. I think that the Harvard area has always been an area where people of color may have felt uncomfortable going. So to see that there's some type of representation in businesses out there would make me feel very comfortable going out to that area. And also that area happens to be a mecca for art. And this could actually combine kind of the racial seclusion that we have seen in the art sector between people of color and some of my wider peers. I also work in the union called the International Association of Theatrical Stage Employees. And, going to that area for Boston Calling, that was kind of my first times being out there and experiencing how impactful the art sector can be. And I think that graffiti is a culture of its own, but it definitely having this establishment over there, I don't think it will, heighten any type of vandalization of anybody's property, but it might actually bring the community together for further understanding. So that's why I'm a yes for that, and I hope the board can reflect upon that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have is Kyle Monstein.
Come on.
Is Kyle on? Don't see Kyle. Next we have is Mar Diuno. Is Mar on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to support her with the whole thing.
Oh, thank you. Next we have Nicola Rose.
Hi, yeah, I am in support of Leah and Dr. Green Thumb in general. And Power towards this neighborhood.
Thank you. Gary Lancaster.
I definitely would like to show my support, along with my friend from Dorchester Art Project. I think it would definitely be a great way to blend both communities.
Thank you. Next, we have Robel Malazam.
Hi, I'm just in support for Leah and Dr. Green Thumb.
Thank you. Next, we have Jay Gravely.
Hi, it seems like a lot of people who are in support for this don't know any of the facts that are going along with.
Are you Jay Gravely?
Yes.
Okay.
That why we're trying to stop this from opening, because it is a big corporation coming into Alston, and already in the Alston area, so many little businesses. I've been an Alston resident for 10 years, and it's damaging to the community for these large businesses to come in, especially considering we already have 2 other dispensaries right on this street, right in this area. It's damaging to the community. It's closing small shops. It's raising rent prices. It's pushing people out of Alston. And Alston is like, it's an arts community. It's college kids. It's an amazing place. And that's why I've been here for so long. But, big companies coming in is damaging our area, and I'm so opposed to it.
I have a question. If I didn't fill out my 2 minutes, can I say more?
You had your chance to talk. If you want to submit more, you can submit it in writing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have Emma Leavitt. Is Emma on? Next, we have Travis Hope.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
How you doing? This is Travis Hope. I'm at 21 Holton Street in Alston. I wanted to express that I'm not in support of 140 Harvard Ave or the big companies. I believe that we should give it to the equity to the people that really deserve it, the economic empowerment, people that don't have much. So I'm not in support of this. And I believe there's others that would benefit from this location more.
Thank you. Next, we have Brittany Smith.
Yes, hello. My name is Brittany Smith. I'm a resident of Boston, and I'm in support of Dr. Green Thumb and Leah. As a Black resident, I fully support it, and I want more Black businesses, because all the dispensaries I've been to, I've only been to one that's Black owned out of all of Boston. It's like, why not have more variety, And I would like to shop with people that look like me. So I'm fully in support.
Thank you. Next, we have Joshua Sullivan.
How's it going? Yes. My name is Joshua Sullivan, and I'm a long-term resident of Alston. My family is from 163 Cambridge Street. I'm a Black man who's opposed of having Dr. Green Thumb there at that location. I do feel like it should be a smaller business owner. My family's been in Alston for 4 generations. We care deeply about our community and cannabis. I'm also a person in a wheelchair who does smoke cannabis recreationally and for medical purposes. Also, as a local stakeholder, I don't think it's right for a big global company to come into my community and pretty much take over. I support all the bars there, support all the restaurants there, and all the little mom and pop stores. Just want to say that I really do oppose of this opportunity.
Thank you. Next, we have Sebastian Joseph.
Hi, thank you again. My name is Sebastian Joseph, a founder of Songe, and also an engineer moderator for Black Freelance. I'd like to say, as a resident of Boston, I'll definitely like to see Lee and Dr. Green Thumb. I think her work and the work that she's done to the community and the commitment that she has made is very impactful. So I'd definitely like to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephen Julian.
Hey, thanks for giving me the time to speak. I'm a Boston resident. I live in Boston, Dorchester, Mass. I'm calling to support Leah and Dr. Greenthumb. From looking at the data from Cannabis Control Commission, it shows about like 73% of active owners, employees, executives, and volunteers of cannabis establishments are white, and 64% are male. So I believe she is a diverse mixture of leadership that is needed. And even with like some of the programs and initiatives that Massachusetts is pushing, like with its equity programs, the economic empowerment program, or the social equity program, you guys kind of just heard the percentages. So I think if there's going to be another dispensary built, why not have the person that's owning it or ownership, why not have that person be a woman of color? So yeah, thanks for giving me the time to speak.
Thank you. Next, we have Wendy Michael.
Hi, my name is Wendy Michelle. I am a principal at Meta Mind Art, and in correlation with two participating arts organization in Boston. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Leah and working with her over the course of several years. And I'm an advocate of anything that she is really bringing into the city. I do want to note that when it comes to the support of small businesses, my business, we are an agency and we support small businesses. And I think it is worth having a conversation about what happens when a small business turns into a larger business. And does that take away their ability to develop and grow a community? And so I do think it's amazing that Leah is majority stakeholder of this company. I do also absolutely am in favor for Leah's dedication to providing training programs and systems to the local community to learn how to go from small business to a more established business if they choose. But I hope that the community in the surrounding areas can find peace new model for dispensaries in Alston area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I see Rhythm and Raps has their hand raised.
Greetings. First want to acknowledge Women's History Month in this March. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm in support of Leah. And first, let me state, my name is Justin Springer, partner at Rhythm Raps, located at 1096 Commonwealth Ave, walking distance from the Harvard application. I'm also the executive director of the Fairmount Innovation Lab in Dorchester, Massachusetts, where our focus is strictly supporting small businesses. And I can tell you this, Leah Samora is not on the big government, big business side of things. As Ms. Wendy Michelle has just stated, Leah has also been a big supporter of my business and many others. And just an amazing leader that I would love to tag team with on many community engagement initiatives that will probably happen in Austin. So again, thank you for the time today. Let's make history in this month. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a Max that signed up to speak.
Hi, my name is Max Stacy. I've been living in Boston area for like 15 years. I received a text about Leah and Dr. Greenwood that offers $100 per session for support. And I find that disgraceful because this support is supposed to be genuine, people who actually support businesses in the neighborhood. And I received this text, so I just call in for the purpose to say that I don't support this kind of action. And I really, really disagree with giving them the opportunity to be part of this community in Alston.
May I respond to that, Madam Chair?
Mike, do you mind going through all the public testimony, and then I'll give you a chance to respond to it all?
Thank you. Thank you.
On our plate today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, Tito Jackson has his hand raised.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and this august board. It is my honor and privilege to step forward and speak emphatically in favor of Leah Samora and her business. I am not receiving any funds to speak here today. I do it based on the fact that this sister has overcome a great deal of adversity. I actually learned about her from a friend of mine who was actually her camp counselor and continues to rave about her and the things that she's been able to overcome. And let's just nip this in the bud. It costs money to open a cannabis dispensary. I'm gonna just keep it 100. And so when it comes down to having to partner, the median the median net worth of a Black family in the city of Boston is $8. So it is absolutely critical that we get into relationships that allow us to open, but that do not control us. I don't know, I've known Leah long enough. I absolutely know that she is not going to be controlled by her business partners. And I emphatically know that also that any neighborhood or community that she's going to be in is going to be better for having this sister involved in it. So I think this is a great opportunity. It's a model that we should all be thinking of. And I emphatically support her, and I look forward to shopping at her store. In addition, as my brother Justin Springer noted, it is Women's History Month. Last history was Black History Month. So let's just make it a twofer and make history with this by supporting this Black woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jasmine, I'm just going to jump in really quick just because Mr. Jackson brought up how expensive it is. The board memo states that the rent here is $450,000 a year and the lease started 2 years ago. Have you been paying $450,000 for the last 2 years?
Yes, that's how it works in this industry. If you look at my location in Cambridge, I've been there for 4.
Okay, I just want to know if you've been paying that rent for the last 2 years, that's all.
It's just, it's part of the process.
Okay, is there anybody else that wishes to testify in regards to this matter?
I did want to, Ms. Nguyen, respond if I could. So I want to respond to what I considered a borderline defamatory statement that was made with regard to the thought that we would be paying anyone for anything. That would never happen under any of our watches of this team. This team is comprised of credible individuals who wouldn't participate into that type of, would not do that, first and foremost. And second of all, the broader issue here, and I think Tito did a nice job of kind of encapsulating it, is that Ms. Samora has been unfairly cast by a few people for reasons I'm not completely sure of. It could be because they're a nearby business. It could be because they had a previous dispute on a previous business, that she's somehow big cannabis. And it's just untrue. The fact that Leah has had a previous partnership with, say, Sarah Naturals, for example, which helped bring this product to market, which is a fabulous product that is now being sold all over Massachusetts, doesn't make her big cannabis. It makes her taking advantage of incubator programs that are available to people
I
like me.
totally get it. I appreciate the back and forth. I think I have complete confidence in my fellow commissioners that we can kind of process all of this. If you feel like we can't, please submit something in writing.
I feel like you can too. Thank you for letting me say my thing.
AG has their hand raised.
Thank you so much. My name is Abigail. I am a Boston resident. Thank you for sneaking me in here at the end. I just wanted to give my heartfelt support to Leah in this endeavor. I'm just really impressed with her commitment to education, her commitment and compassion towards communities that are disproportionately harmed by cannabis laws. And I just feel very confident that this location in this store will be a really great addition to the neighborhood and the overall culture to Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak that did not have a chance to already speak? Ms. Jill, I see you have your hand raised, but you did have an opportunity to speak. If you have additional testimony, you can submit that in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. Anyone else? Seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna take a quick 5-minute break and we will return at 3:20. No, that's electronic. 317. All right, our last matter. So the following applicant was rejected without prejudice from the BCB's June 16, 2021 voting hearing. Rejected without prejudice means the applicant can return anytime with an application at the same location. The applicant is Pure Oasis LLC, Pure Oasis. The proposed license premise is at 535 Washington Street in Brighton. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operations are 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. This is the equity applicant. The initial application was filed November 8th, 2021. The inspectional services filing was October 20th, 2020, and the community meeting was held February 17th, 2022. Before we proceed with the presentation, I will ask Aaliyah to testify regarding the equity certification.
Hi, Jasmine. I need 1 minute. I just got back. Sorry, everyone. All right. Thank you. Our office is able to certify Pure Oasis LLC as an equity applicant through the documentation submitted by the applicant. Kobe Evans, who is the co-owner of Pure Oasis LLC, is the 60% beneficial interest holder of the company, exceeding the 51% ownership interest threshold set forth in the ordinance. Mr. Evans submitted sufficient documentation that verified that he has been a resident of Boston for at least the past 7 years by providing a proof of residency certificate from the Boston Elections Department, utility bills, and financial statements. Mr. Evans has been a resident of Boston since at least 2005. Mr. Evans is also a person who has been certified by the Cannabis Control Commission as an economic empowerment applicant and has been a resident of Boston for at least one of the last 3 years. He provided his certification letter and was certified as an economic empowerment applicant by the CCC in 2018. Additionally, Mr. Evans has self-identified as Black, satisfying the criteria for a person who is of Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, or Indigenous descent. Are there any questions about this certification?
No, thank you, Aaliyah.
Thank you.
Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Kobe Evans.
All right, so you will have 10 minutes to present to the board. You may share your screen.
Jasmine, I'm sorry. So let me just pull up the presentation. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Kobe Evans. I'm the co-owner of Pure Oasis. We're a certified economic empowerment applicant in the state of Massachusetts, as well as a Boston equity applicant. I'm here today to present our revised proposal for an adult use cannabis dispensary to be located at 535 Washington Street in Brighton. I am joined today by our business partner, Kevin Hart, our legal counsel, Mike Ross, and our traffic engineer, Jeff Bandini. We previously presented before the board this past June. Since last presenting, we have done more community outreach in order to better understand the concerns of the neighborhood. Over the past 8 months, we've conducted significant community outreach and work with the community elected officials and other stakeholders to revise our proposal and address concerns. Sorry. Obviously, this is our first appearance before the board, as we are excited to be back with this revised proposal. As the owner of the first recreational dispensary in Boston, we have successfully operated a dispensary while ensuring there is no negative impact on the community. And actually today marks our 2-year anniversary of opening our first location. The proposed site was formerly a business, Swan Dry Cleaners. Since its closure in 2007, the site has remained vacant, which we believe is a disservice to the community and the other area businesses. We've invested in the community by purchasing the building in late 2021, and we're excited to revitalize the space. This is just a slide rendering kind of what the redevelopment will look like as we change the whole facade of the building. And this is kind of the interior layout for the retail area and the back-end operations. Our team reviewed each piece of correspondence from the first to the hearing testimony and the voting hearing multiple times to ensure we addressed all the concerns, questions, and other outreach. I then personally reached out to everyone who submitted testimony opposing the site. Kevin and I spent 2 Saturdays walking the neighborhood from Oak Square to Brighton Center, meeting and engaging business owners and constituents. This slide indicates some of the community concerns from the original meeting, as well as modifications we've made. One of the concerns that the community had was proposed hours of operations, which we revised from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to scale it back to 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. That was just based on some of the feedback that we had. Significant concerns was traffic and parking. To understand these concerns, we hired McMahon and Associates to conduct 3 separate field studies, one on October 27th, one on November 4th, and one on December 16th. These studies and evaluated the traffic volume, parking inventory, mode splits, and note, they were also conducted while colleges were in session, just so we can get a true, accurate count of traffic and parking potential issues. The full traffic assessment and methodology has been submitted to the board, but we thought we just wanted to give a summary of some of the key findings. The overall summary was based on the 3 field studies. The projected additional traffic is not a significant impact. We also evaluated the various modes of transportation surrounding the facility and found that the site was in the site is served by an excellent multi-mode infrastructure, providing a variety of options, including bus, bikes, and pedestrian foot traffic. The site is from the 57 bus, which is the 9th highest ridership of all 175 routes in the city. The number 501 bus, an express bus from downtown, also has a bus stop right there, as well as bicycle lanes on both sides of Washington Street and sidewalks with pedestrian crossings, which allow for easy access to non-vehicular traffic. If need be, we will develop a traffic demand management measurement to encourage employees to travel via public transportation, bikes, ride sharing, and also foot. McMahon and Associates not only reviewed the traffic volume, but they also reviewed parking spaces near the site to determine utilization of existing spaces during peak hours. The review concluded that during peak demand, we could accommodate customers comfortably with the existing parking on Washington Street alone. Additionally, we are committed to dedicating staff during all hours of operation who will monitor the front exterior, the front of the building for double parking and illegal parking issues. Even with the emphasis on public transportation and the availability of on-street parking, we have worked diligently to identify additional situations to solve for parking issues. We've modified our site plan at the rear of the building to have not only access for deliveries, but also for off-street parking spaces for staff. In the event that we need additional parking, we have the ability to lease parking spaces off Fairbanks Street, which is a few doors down. Some of the testimony from prior to the hearing alleges that this is not an appropriate site for a cannabis establishment in Brighton, and pointed to Brighton Center as an alternative. However, as you're well aware, the board has held that Brighton Center is not given that the proximity of 5 schools, and has recently rejected a proposal. As the board is well aware, the state requires the city to cite a minimum of 52 retail locations. It is nearly impossible to find a good location that adheres to half-mile buffer. This site is in commercial corridor with a variety of different business types. Additionally, nearly 73% of voters in the ward and precinct voted to legalize cannabis, in 2016. Based on these factors, we feel strongly that this is an appropriate location for the proposal. Following our first hearing, we conducted significant community outreach. We reached out to thousands of community members to solicit information and feedback, and offered time to meet virtually and in person if need be. We hand delivered over 1,500 flyers and sent out over 3,000 mailers to residents. We were proud to submit today signatures of over 160 Brighton residents in support. This slide shows the locations of just a portion of that support in the immediate area. We also met with elected officials and other stakeholders and conducted a new community impact meeting. The proposal you see before you today is a result of that outreach, and we truly appreciate the input that we have received from the community. This proposal is stronger because of it. We just want to thank, the board for the consideration, but also the members of the Oak Square community. Kevin and I have met with many of the business owners in the neighborhood over the course of the time we spent there. And we've been very encouraged by the support that we've received. Many businesses have gone through the gauntlet of trying to open in Oak Square. And so we kind of share a shared plight or shared journey with them. But not only that, even the people who were in opposition were also very respectful and kind, and we appreciate and want to just thank them for that. Any questions?
Thank you, Kobe.
Thank you.
We will begin with questions and comments from the board members. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks for bringing the traffic study back to us and explaining that to us. I don't have any questions right now.
Commissioner Sangian.
I don't have any questions either.
Commissioner Holmes.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks, Kevin and Kobe. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Longos.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. We will move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or representatives.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer judgment to the board. Some background information on the community process. So previously, when this applicant first applied, they met with the Brighton Allston Improvement Association and had been opposed by the Civic Association. The Civic, upon the second time that they reapplied, opted not to have them present, feeling that their stance would not change, so they remain in opposition. The Mayor's Office conducted a public meeting on February 17th. There were several residents in attendance that were in support, mentioning that Oak Square has a tough time retaining businesses. There's a number of vacancies on the corridor, as well as another resident saying that they appreciated the applicant's commitment to equity and to ensuring employment in the area. The multitude of participants, though, at the meeting were in opposition. Residents voiced concerns that the proximity would be very close to a number of residences that are on that corridor, as well as parking concerns. As the applicant mentioned, they've proposed adding employee parking on Fairbanks Street, but a number of residents felt that this wasn't enough dealing with customer parking. And specifically with the traffic study, they felt it was too narrow, focusing on Washington Street and not on the side streets that could potentially be impacted, such as Fairbanks, Oak Square Ave, Langley Road. Other residents also mentioned that this particular location is right at an unsafe bend in the road for Washington Street, where there's some visibility issues, and they've noted that there's been accidents there in the past, And then other residents also cited, similar to the first time around, proximity to the Mary Lyons School, which is just outside the 500 feet, and proximity to the Oak Square YMCA as well. With that information, we turn it over to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Are there any other elected officials or representatives that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move to those.
Hi, Jasmine. It's Jen Migliori from State Representative Michael Moran's office. How are you?
Yep. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you so much. To the members of the Cannabis Board, Representative Moran and Representative Honan actually sent a letter in opposition to this proposal back in June 2021. While we appreciate the owners' outreach to the neighborhood, we are still in opposition of this location as it currently stands. As Connor stated, it is an unsafe bend. It's a tricky corner. In the lack of parking and the worry of nearby residents thinking that it will continue to congest parking, we believe is a valid concern. Representative Moran has supported previous locations in the neighborhood. We just supported the one earlier in this meeting, but this location we just do not believe is suitable, and the abutters' concerns are very valid, that this is a tricky area in terms of parking and visibility. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, but we would like to continue to express our opposition as previously in June 2021 as well.
Thank you, Jen. Now we'll move to public testimony. The first name I have is William S. Is William?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hi, my name is William. By the way, thank you, Jasmine and the board. My name is William Shuker. I'm at 539 Washington Street, which is my multifamily home immediately next to the proposed cannabis store. I've owned it for 29 years. I know that area very well. I know the previous Swan Cleaners. My house is 30 inches from that building. I can touch it from my window and I can step onto the roof from a second floor window. I'm strongly opposed to Pure Oasis opening at this location, as were the vast majority of community members who spoke at the meeting of February 17th. I have several objections to the store that I've written to you about, but today I'm going to focus on parking. This store will be in the middle of a residential neighborhood surrounded by houses on all sides, at a busy, dangerous intersection with lots of double parking. Parking in that whole neighborhood is extremely tight. The parking study the owners did presented at the community meeting was insufficient. It was done on one day, December 16th, for only an hour and a half during Omicron, when many stores and restaurants were closed and many student residents possibly had gone home for the holidays. If extensive studies are done at more realistic times, they will show how bad the parking really is. Oasis's peak hours will be from 5 to 6:30, and that's exactly when people who drive home from work will be looking to find a spot. People will be forced to cruise the streets looking for spots, backing up traffic, and if lucky, finding one far from their home, putting pressure on those neighborhoods because of the ripple effect. Small business owners here will be hurt, as will landlords who will lose tenants because word will be out that it's impossible to park in this neighborhood. Public transportation for residents who consider using it instead of driving is meager, and if you don't work where those routes go, you're stuck. Oasis also claims falsely that Swan Cleaners, the previous occupants, had hundreds of customers a week, but this is incorrect, as local residents like myself and the others who spoke at the meeting pointed out. That had very little traffic. Pure Oasis will attract large numbers of customers from outside Oak Square and Boston, as reviews from their other stores show, and these customers will take up the parking spots residents and existing businesses need. I find it troubling that a large business like this would consider opening without providing any off-street parking and expecting the community to bear the burden of its operations.
William?
I urge them to seek another location in a commercial area.
Thank you, that's your 2 minutes. Next name I have is Rick Hill. This is Rick Hill. Don't see him. Next I have Jose Lara. Is Jose on? Next, I have Leanne Brandon. You just got it.
Am I okay now?
Yep, you're good.
All right. I would like to second what William Choucair just said. I'm a 49-year resident of Langley Road, and anybody who lives in this neighborhood knows that if you come home from work or try to park after 4 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon, you have to drive around endlessly looking for a parking space. I often have to drive 2 blocks at least to park if I come home after 3:30. I'd like to, again, clearly I'm opposed. The traffic is terrible here, particularly at rush hour. And those are sort of blind corners, and all the streets sort of lead, with the exception of Langley Road, are one-way streets. So that's very problematic. The parking that Pure Oasis is talking about, the additional parking, is down a hidden driveway on Fairbanks Street that you can't see the parking space from the street. And I doubt very much that customers are going to try to look at some sort of an aerial map to find out whether there's any kind of parking on Fairbanks Street. The parking next to the building only is room for 2 or 3 cars, very, very, very small parking. So basically there is almost no parking there, particularly if they have 8 to 10 employees. Bike traffic around here is minimal. I think I've only seen 1 or 2 bikes a day on Washington Street. And in the wintertime, you just don't see bikes. So in the wintertime, when there's snow piling up, I have no idea where their folks are going to park, let alone customers who don't, who will just be circling Langley Road. By the way, Langley Road was not included in their traffic study, and we are one of the closest streets to Pure Oasis. And Langley Road is very narrow. There's not room for cars going both ways. So people will be circling, getting stuck at the top of our hill, and we'll just have gridlock on a very small residential street.
Leanne?
Yes.
That is your 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you for listening.
You're welcome. Next is Kristen Matthews. That's great.
Hello, I'm here. It's a little dark. Yeah, so my 2 minutes. The last 2 folks, I'll start off. I'm Kristen Matthews. I live on 95 Sutherland Road. About I think 15-20 minute walk to that area, Oak Square, Brighton Center. I frequent that area quite a lot to go to restaurants, go to the store and all that. Yeah, what can I say? I've been here for a few years now as a Boston resident. Yeah, so I do have experience going to Pure Oasis at its original location. Was super excited about it. Black-owned, first recreational dispensary in Boston for Black-owned recreational dispensary. It was super exciting for me. What a trek though. It is really, out of the way. There is a lot of traffic, but I must say my experience was still wonderful. It was very much an in and out procedure. It was very efficient. Everyone was super friendly. And I do feel like that same experience will come to Brighton. I think it would be great for them to extend their reach to Brighton. I think just having that diverse experience in the area, and it will be kind of consistent with everything else in the area. There's liquor stores, there's smoke shops, restaurants, bars. I really can't see it sticking out like a sore thumb, maybe initially when it first gets started. In general, parking sucks in Brighton. I also spent a long time trying to park. I try not to move my car during certain times of the day. When I visit Oak Square and Brighton Center, I tend to take public transportation during peak hours. So I know it will probably be an issue for a bit, but I just don't see it being catastrophic. Yeah, I don't know what other points I want to say. I just love the service of Pure Oasis. I mean, fully support. I really do think they'll be a great addition to the community. So, and yeah, the bus routes are just so easy just to get there. And even taking the T is not that big a deal, like a walk from the T to this area. So yeah, I think it's a solid choice.
Thank you. Next we have Farah. Is Farah on? Next, we have Bruno.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello, it's Farah.
Okay.
Can you hear
Yep.
me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to first of all, thank the board and thank Jasmine for hearing us. I'm in opposition and I have written to the board and I spoke before. I live at 35 Langley Road in Brighton and I've lived here for more than 20 years in here. And as everybody said, I don't want to repeat it again about the traffic in here and parking issues. A lot of times when we want to drive down on rush hour traffic, we can't even go. We have to wait for another car passing by. Just imagine having trucks parking there or the people that are going to shop in there. They're going to be parked on Langley Road. There's no doubt about it. Another particular issue is that Pure Oasis said that they had hired parking spaces in there. Well, people that have parking spaces in there, they're going to have to park on the street then, because if they have like driveways and they're going to have to, they cannot park on driveway if they rented their space to Pure Oasis, and that's going to actually contribute to us not having enough parking spaces, and also contribute to incredible pollution in the air as well, with all the traffic going and coming back. We live in this residential neighborhood with children all around, and we want to have quiet, nice neighborhood. We don't want to have like a polluted parking, nightmare. We don't want to have like businesses that they need like guard with guns and cameras everywhere. We want to have like an art center where local beautiful artists are going to be showing their talents. We want to have people like Tina Turner coming out of that art studio. We want to have so I just want to thank you. I don't want to wait too much time. I just want to let you know that I'm opposing this business. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruno?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you to the board for letting me speak. I do support the cannabis industry, but I am opposed to this location. And some of the reasons are, this is a 99% residential area. Traffic is an issue. At times, it's difficult to even exit my small dead-end road. Pure Oasis did a traffic study in December. That's the only one that I know of when students were on their Christmas vacations. Thus, that was probably inaccurate. And resident parking is always difficult now and would become bigger issue if Pure Oasis opens. And most importantly, the safety is so key in this location. Because of that bend in the road, safety is a major concern at this location. It's the bend curve in the road and has been reason for many accidents over the years, including recently. And I've lived here over 50 years. I hate to admit it, but I've lived here over 50 years and I've been witness to and still see them as recently as 3 weeks ago. So I'm opposed to this location. If they open somewhere else, I would be in support of. So, those are my concerns, and I just hope that board considers this.
Thank you. Next, we have Sheila Gleason.
Hi, I'm Sheila Gleason, and our property is located at 551 Washington Street, which is just around the bend from the proposed cannabis dispensary. I'm opposed and spoke and wrote in opposition before and wrote again this time. And I am absolutely for the cannabis industry. I voted for it, and I really wish that I could support Kobe and Kevin, but the location is just so wrong. For all the reasons cited, traffic, parking, and the dangerous corner that it's on. When there's deliveries coming, and I don't know whether they'll be able to deliver to the back or not, it seems unlikely that any kinds of trucks will be able to turn in off Fairbank Street because it's so narrow. During street cleaning, when there's snow emergencies, after snow emergencies, when there's big piles of snow on the road, traffic is crippled, and there is no parking. Their parking study, I'm sorry to say, does not reflect anything. Their traffic study, it was done in October in the height of the pandemic. It's only in the last couple of weeks that we've seen anything like the pre-pandemic traffic in the area again. The same thing for parking. They did it on December 16th, when a lot of the students had already left for vacation. And a lot of the young professionals who live in the area had gone home because they're working from home, so they can travel anywhere. So I've lived in the area for 40 years and have always had a problem parking on Washington Street. And I'm the only driveway that's nearby, and I routinely get people from other businesses in the area parking in my driveway and blocking me in, which is really not acceptable. So I don't see any reason. It's just not a suitable location, and I would love for them to come back with a more suitable location that has some parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Zoom user has their hand raised.
Good morning. Is that me? Good afternoon.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Sorry about that. My name is Hatim Jean-Louis. I actually live in Ruth Street, which is down the street from the Pure Oasis location. I'm a social equity applicant as well, second cohort. But I just wanted to bring some context to the board and the people there. Kobe and Kevin are pioneers. They're the first in our state. So they had to go through uncharted waters to get where they've gotten. If you are familiar with the Grove Hall location, it didn't have quote unquote adequate parking. But what I have seen is that I've seen more diverse people in the Grove Hall area over the last 2 years. As a resident of Grove Hall, I kind of chuckle to drive by their location and see that diversity. The conversations that I've had with these two men, they're inspiring, they're motivating, and I ask the board and the people of Brighton to honestly give these men a legit consideration, because what they have done in the Grove Hall location, which is disproportionately affected more than Brighton. So these men have brought a different type of attitude, a different type of feeling to my community. So I wanted to encourage everything that they do. And I believe that what they will be bringing to Brighton is more diversity. I've listened to a lot of the callers, and I'm born and raised in the city. Brighton has always had a parking issue. Nothing's going to change, right? But I believe that there's solution. The fact that these men have gone above and beyond to collect the data for the parking and the driving issue. And a lot of you mentioned the youth, right? Well, the same youth that you are mentioning are the same youth that'll be participating in their retail services. They're the same people who will be going into that dispensary. So I want to say, ladies and gentlemen, when we want to put in context, this is the first minority owned in Massachusetts. These men have set the standard already. They have exceeded all expectations in our community. And I promise you, people of Brighton, because this is new, so we don't have the answers. So you're going to.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but that is your 2 minutes. So if you want
to. All right, my name is Tim. Yeah, in short, my name is Tim Jean-Louis. I live in the area of their first retail location, and I support these brothers 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael has his hand raised. Michael? That's the only hand raised. I don't think Michael is with us.
Can you, do you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
This is Michael. Hi, my name is Michael B. I live right down the street from the proposed location. I have no opposition to pot smoking or ingestion of any other products. I just disagree with opening at this location, mostly for the safety reasons you've already heard mentioned. But I wanted to add that we have a thing in Alston Brighton called Move-In Day, when all the BC and the BU students come in a massive influx through our neighborhood. So on a daily basis from then on, people are even afraid to move their car because they'll lose a parking space to someone who puts their car there for a week because they don't have to drive their car till the weekends. So I have a driveway, but people often, I heard the woman earlier, how they block driveways. My driveway gets blocked all the time. And God forbid if there's a BC football game, I just want everyone to know that traffic goes all the way from Brighton Center, all the way down to the Mass Pike, for God's sake, through Oak Square, all the way down, because it's a BC football game. Nothing moves on the street. I've sat in it before. It's terrible. There's a bus stop right in front of it, and a bus stop across the street, and also a fire hydrant. So there's a bunch of parking spaces that in the survey was saying there were spaces available. They're not. And a lot of people cross the street right in front of that location because of the bus stop there. So that crosswalk has now become one of the most dangerous crosswalks in the city. I mean, people are almost getting hit all the time, and it's because it is on a blind spot. The curve in that road right there puts it in a big blind spot, so people cannot even see the crosswalk when they come flying around the corner. So there's also an 18-wheeler that parks right out in front near the crosswalk that delivers to the other business across the street, and it's a serious blind spot. We cannot see. The last thing I want to say is,
Michael, that is your
yeah.
turn.
Okay, if you do allow it, please have them change the hours so it can be later and close earlier, start later and close earlier, the way they do it in Hyde Park. Please, thank you.
Yeah. Ed has his hand raised.
Jasmine,
Yes.
is it possible that the traffic engineer can speak to some of the concerns regarding the parking in the traffic study, just so we can address whether or not it happened during the school time that
He wants to mention the schools.
Sure. Is he on?
Yes. Sorry, Jeff Van Daney, McMahon Associates, registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm a project manager with McMahon. I've been practicing for about 17 years. So we conducted the traffic study given the parameters that Kobe outlined. We understand the concerns of the residents. We understand that parking is an issue, and that's why Kobe had brought our firm on board to conduct the study. I just want to give a little bit more context to the parking study and the traffic engineering assessment in general. So our data collection did occur in October. We looked at the traffic operations at the intersection directly in front of the site and found that there were no issues accessing the main roadway. We also looked at, again, the public transit in the area and the mode split data that's available from the United States Census. And given the composition of the site, and I think a lot of residents have mentioned this already, that it's a very highly residential area, and the expectation that because it is a residential area, I think actually suits the fact that there will be a lot of folks that would actually walk to this site. So, and given the fact that there is a worry about parking and it is a residential area, it stands to reason that there will be some businesses, some business that comes from folks that decide to walk to the site. And again, the two bus routes, there's the bike lane, there's sidewalks along both sides of Washington Street. So I just want to give it that sort of context. Regarding the parking study itself, we did look at 700 feet in both locations. In both directions along Washington Street, and inventoried the amount of parking spaces that were available during that 90-minute time frame, and found that there were the highest utilization during that time frame allowed for a sufficient amount of vehicles to park, not directly in front of the site necessary, but certainly within walking distance that is at a comfort level that suits the proposed development. Certainly, we understand that there's a desire to park directly in front of the site. We understand that may not always be the case, but we're certainly understandable, and that's why Kobe brought us on, was just to look at if there's any sort of things that we could do to kind of quell the concerns of the residents. And I think, outlining the additional parking, I think certainly helps. And I know Kobe mentioned the transportation demand management program that we could implement as part of this site. So, that's just my response to our methodology with respect to the traffic and parking. So yeah, certainly understand the the sort of the concerns with the residents.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Ed has his hand raised.
Sure, my name is Ed Shokare, 541 Washington Street in Oak Square. And I'm in opposition to the application and believe Pure Oasis at this location will negatively impact and significantly worsen the character and quality of life of our neighborhood. A major weakness of the application is the design and findings of the parking study. It was done at the height of the most recent phase of the pandemic, when Oak Square retailers were suffering a significant reduction in trips to their establishments. As was the case across Boston, large numbers of people had diverged from their traditional routines, choosing to minimize trips outside their homes, choosing instead to shop online, prepare meals at home, and order out. At the same time, car trips to Oak Square were unusually low because a number of shops had reduced their hours or closed as a result of the pandemic. Therefore, an accurate and non-pandemic baseline parking study is needed for a fair and reasonable assessment of the proponent's claim that the project will not negatively impact parking in the area. Secondly, the applicants claim it will mitigate the project's parking impacts by utilizing a nearby vacant lot for its employees. That's a problem. As a residential abutter to this lot, please be advised that this lot is currently zoned for residential use, and an ancillary parking lot to service a commercial use is not allowed. Therefore, because use of this off-site residential lot is a key feature of the applicant's parking plan, without the owner possessing as of right commercial use of the lot, it is requested that if an approval of this project is granted by the board, to make the approval contingent upon the proponent demonstrating that a variance has been granted to use the residential lot for commercial purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I see Barbara has her hand up.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Hannigan Beath. I live on Graymere Road, and I am in opposition of Pure Oasis opening up at 535 Washington Street. I'd like to first say that on February 17th, 2022, there was a meeting, a neighborhood meeting held on Zoom. And at that time, we were told that the traffic study was done on December 16th. We were never told about the other two dates. Even if there were two other dates that the traffic study was done, I, as some of the other residents have stated, I don't believe it's an accurate portrayal of what the parking and traffic situation is like here. I also want to point out that on February 12th at approximately 2:30 p.m., there was an accident right at that intersection that we've all spoken about, where there's the curvature in the road. It appeared that there were at least 3 cars involved. In the meeting, the Zoom meeting on February 17th, another local resident told of another accident that happened a few weeks either before or after. It must have been before the February 12th accident. And she stated that there was an ambulance and other emergency response workers there. There are elderly, children, and disabled in this neighborhood, as well as residents, and we shouldn't have to be exposed to increased traffic that expose us to further dangers that we already have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. These side streets cannot take more traffic. We already have a lot of traffic there. On Tuesday and Fridays, there are those are the days that the city of Boston cleans the streets. So the traffic has to, the parking, people have to find different places to park. And I strongly oppose. Thank you.
Okay, that's your 2 minutes. Is there anybody else that wishes to testify on this matter? Seeing no additional hands, the board will take this matter under advisement. So those are all the matters that are before the board today. The board's voting meeting will take place next Wednesday, March 16th at 1 p.m. The information to access that voting hearing will be on our website, boston.gov/cannabis. Again, the record will be kept open until next Tuesday, March 15th, until 5 p.m. Thank you all for attending and enjoy the rest of your evening.